For the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Please still stay standing for the statement of values.
As we gather, we humbly seek blessings upon this meeting. May we act with strength, courage, and will to perform our obligations and duties to our people with justice to all. Let us seek wisdom so that we may act in the best interest of our people, our neighbors, and our country. All this we ask so we may serve our community with fairness and respect, putting their needs above all.
You may be seated. Secretary Biagini, would you please read the roll call?
Sure. Commissioner Salam? Commissioner Casey? Commissioner Kelly? Chair Becker?
Here.
Commissioner Jane? Commissioner Cherukuru? Here. And Commissioner Biagini, me, I'm here too.
Okay. Seeing that everyone's here, there will be no motions for excusing any commissioners tonight. We'll move on to the declaration of commission procedures. Public hearings are conducted by the chair in accordance with the following procedures. The chair of the commission directs all activity during the hearings. All comments shall be addressed to the commission. Any item on this agenda may be continued to a subsequent hearing. Applicants will be allotted up to 10 minutes to present and justify proposals. No additional comments may be accepted upon the close of the public hearing, although the commission reserves the right to direct questions to any speaker on any matter. Special procedure time limits may be applied to any items as prescribed by the chair. Appeal of commission actions must be filed in writing within 7 calendar days. Copies of the current agenda and staff reports for each of the items on the agenda are available from the Planning Division office on the Friday afternoon preceding the meeting and available online. A copy of the agenda packet is located on the table near the entrance to the council chamber. Continuances and exceptions. This is the part of the meeting for applicants, members, or the public, or other interested parties to request an item be continued without hearing, be withdrawn, or taken out of order. Are there any requests, applicants, the public, or from the commission for a continuance or exception for any of the items on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none. We will now move on to the consent calendar. The procedure for the consent calendar is as follows. Consent calendar items may be enacted, approved, or adopted by one motion unless requested to be removed by anyone for discussion or explanation. If any member of the Planning Commission, staff, or the applicant, or a member of the public wishes to comment on a consent calendar item, or would like the item to be heard on the regular agenda, make this request now. Items listed on the consent calendar with associated file numbers constitute public hearing items. Secretary Biagini, will you please read the consent calendar for the record?
Certainly. Consent calendar items are as follows. 1A 19-885, Planning Commission meeting minutes of July 24th, 2019, and 1B 19-765, recommendation on an amendment to the zoning code, Santa Clara City Code, Chapter 18.76, architectural review and other clarifying changes, which is continued from May 22nd, 2019.
I'd like to take both items out.
Okay. Same thing, Commissioner Jane?
Yes. Well, I wanted to pull 1B, but I also had a proposal that we move 1B to after item 2 because there's a large number of people from the public here.
Okay. That'll be fine. All right.
We need to take a vote for changing the order, or?
Do we have to take a vote for changing the order?
No, you don't.
No? Okay. All right, so therefore, I as well was going to pull item 1B. So we will now move these items to the later part. So that means, based on that, we are going to have to move to, well, how will we do that? I'm sorry.
So are we moving 1B to public hearing? To
Yes,
after number
yes.
2? So the motion was made to pull item 1A from the consent calendar, is that correct? So we'd take a vote on that motion and then, and, and then then we'd go into item 1A.
Okay. So,
Second.
Commissioner Jane.
Yeah, I second pulling item 1A and B.
Okay.
And I think we'll hear 1A first and then 1B after item 2.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Wait for the.
Sorry.
Yeah, I believe so.
Seconded by Ashley Kedzie.
Can you please repeat what the motion was?
The motion was to pull items 1A and 1B from the consent calendar and to hear item 1A now and move item 1B till after item 2.
Passes unanimously. Okay, so now we will move to the public speaking, sorry, yes, public
Commissioner,
presentation.
no, Commissioner oh, are we doing public? Yeah.
It would be item 1A now.
Oh, 1A, oh, so we're
Yes.
going to still stay in the consent calendar, okay, because I just was curious, okay. So item 1A, which is the meeting minutes of last meeting, which is right here, sorry. Meeting minutes of July 24th, 2019. Commissioner
Izzy had.
Kedzie?
I like to recommend rephrasing the motion under item 1E. Right now, it's really hard to follow what the motion is. This is the one that says, a motion was made by Commissioner Jane, second by blah, 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 to approve this item with modifications to conditions C3 and C4, and it's a very long sentence, and it's, I had a hard time following it.
Okay. Commissioner Jane?
I had raised the same question with staff because we just list those condition numbers here, and it's not clear whether the conditions that were actually in the approval were what the intent of the commission was. And so this would be a change to policy, would be, and I'm recommending that in the future, when we have a change of condition, that be listed or emailed to the commissioners. And Development Review Officer Chiara had suggested that we bring this up maybe at a later time during our meeting. Do you have a comment on that?
Yes, this would, actually, we got consultation from both the clerk's office and the city attorney's office,
And there is a consensus that essentially, if there's a procedural change, it needs to be agendized and discussed. But I can give you some feedback if you like in terms of just generally how we treat these situations. Basically, there is an expectation that the staff will implement the direction of the commission and change the conditions of approval. And so the minutes are basically have to remain as action items only, or action description only, and not have a lot of discussion or the actual condition inside the actual minute document. And if you wanted to see something outside of just the summary, that we would have to create a procedure for distribution to the commission. But normally, there is that expectation that staff will implement the requirements. Again, if you want to see a few examples to ensure that we do that, we can provide that to you, but otherwise, it needs to be agendized for further discussion on changing that process. It is different than what we're accustomed to, and again, it would be for your discussion if you want to take this up at a later date.
Any more questions?
So can I
Kazi?
explain why I'd like to get this rephrased? So Commissioner Biagini to approve this item with modifications to conditions C3 and C4 regarding operational hours, which is okay. And adding C19, extending the hours of operation for the beer and wine service on the patio, which is good. And C20, regarding upon a change in service or business operation on the patio area that has a potential to disturb residential properties in the vicinity, the hours of operation for outdoor beer and wine services will be subject to a 6 months and 1 year review on the operation hours of the patio, which I think I understand, but I think there are like a few commas missing. Maybe it's helpful to have more semicolons in there too. That's all.
Okay.
Okay, so I can make a suggestion that we can just basically truncate this sentence to say C20 regarding upon a change of service or business. We'll strike out the next one, will be subject to 6 month and 1 year review upon the operation of out.
Okay, that sounds good.
1 year, yeah, 6 month and 1 year review for operational hours of the patio.
Okay,
And
that sounds
strike
good.
everything else out.
Sure.
Commissioner Jane?
Move to approve the minutes?
Okay. We have a motion to approve the
I have a
minutes from
question.
Commissioner Jane.
Was that a motion to approve the minutes with Ms. Shara's modification?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a motion to approve the minutes with Gloria's recommendations with a second by Commissioner Chirukuru. That passes unanimously.
And then just as an aside, because that topic came up about the discussion about how we convey the amended conditions of approval, we can talk about that under announcements and discussion items at the end of the agenda. Thank you.
All right. So now we're going to move to item number 2, which is Sycamore, correct?
Public presentation.
Public presentations. Okay.
And since I was on the architectural review meeting, I need to abstain on this, correct?
Yes. So both myself and Commissioner Kelly will have to abstain from this because we voted on it the last time in the architectural review. So therefore, Vice Chair Salam will be filling in for this role.
I don't think you missed a whole.
We have to do public presentations.
Oh. My apologies. We went off script, sorry. Public presentations. The chair will ask if anyone would like to address the commission for any items that are not on the agenda. So currently, are there any items that you would like to briefly address the commission that are not currently on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to close? Sorry. This is wrong, sorry. We will now move to the public hearing. Moving on to public hearing items. The first item is the appeal of the Architectural Committee approval for property at 2892 Sycamore Way. For this item, like I said, Commissioner Kelly and I will be abstaining from this, and Vice Chair Salame will be filling in for the role of chair.
I also have decided to abstain because this property is close to my home.
Okay, so we have Commissioner Akezi also abstaining. Are we going to have enough?
Yes,
Present?
there will be 4 members, and you will require a unanimous vote on a decision on this action item with the 4 members.
Okay, all right, well, Commissioner Slay?
Should the applicant be asked whether they like to continue?
There will not be any change to the makeup of the quorum if you're going to continue to abstain, so it would not be any different if we were to continue it to a different meeting.
Understood, thank you.
Okay.
So maybe I could just mention to the audience about this recusal process. Essentially, there was guidance by the city attorney's office that if there was an action by a planning commissioner serving on the architectural committee, that in order to ensure due process for the applicants and the community, that anyone who participated in the vote would have to recuse themselves from participating in an appeal process. And that's the reason for the committee members' recusal. That's Commissioner Becker and also Commissioner Kelly. And then Commissioner Ikezi lives within 500 to 1,000 feet, and then there's certain restrictions of who can participate within that proximity. And after reviewing the material with the city attorney, she decided to recuse herself in order to ensure fairness. So there's a remaining 4 members of this body left. And because of that, under the Roberts rules, it does require a unanimous vote one way or another on the decision. And that would be also subject to appeal to the city council, whatever the outcome is this evening.
So is there, to start this?
Yeah, and Vice Chair Salame will be chairing this item.
So I think the way this would work is that, is there an initial staff presentation to inform the council or the commission on what the property specifics are?
Yes, there'll be a staff presentation, and then there will be a presentation by the applicant, who is also the appellant, and then there will be open for public comment, and then rebuttal by the applicant.
Okay. So staff would like to proceed.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair. Good evening, Planning Commissions. Steve Lee, Project Planner. What you have here tonight is an appeal of the Architectural Committee approval for the residential project at 2892 Sycamore Way. The appeal was filed by the property owner within 7 days of the June 19 architectural review approval. As you can see, the 2 main purpose of the appeal is, one is to add additional full bathroom where 3.5 bathrooms were approved, and add an exterior access for bedroom number 1, which was shown later on the ground floor plan. That is 1 more than the 3 approved accesses. As you can see in the Google image there, the site is predominantly surrounded by a single-family home. It's a 11,589 square foot lot, just north of Prune Ridge and southwest of Sycamore Way, and as it turns into Bancroft Street. The existing site is occupied by a single-family residential 1-story, 4 bedrooms, and 2 bathrooms. The initial proposal submitted in March of this year is for 5 bedrooms, or actually a demolished existing house, fully demolished, and built a 2-story with 5 bedrooms, 5.5 bathrooms, 2 second-story balconies facing the rear yard, and then the exterior is mostly stucco finish and primarily 3 gable roofs. There's on the ground floor, there are 6 access to the side yard and rear yards. From the front, the rear garage, dining room, and bedroom 1 and 2 on the ground floor. There's also one second-story side-facing window that has less than 5 feet window sill, which we typically call for the per design guideline. The initial proposal was presented at the first architectural committee on April 17. The staff presented the projects, and approximately 20 neighbors were present and opposing the projects. A few represented the group, expressing concern of high volume short-term rental as the property was occupied by short-term rentals tenants. And also concerns were raised on public nuisance and poor property management. After the public testimony, the architectural committee continue the project with these modifications listed here. The main one is to reduce the number of 5.5 bathroom, to 3.5 bathroom. All second story to have window seals of 5 foot height. And then integrate hip-style roof and other design features to be more compatible with the neighborhood. Soon after the architectural committee on April 17, the property owner reached out to the neighbors and held a meeting on site on May 6 to address any other concerns the neighbor may have. The two concerns raised that evening is the neighbors want to terminate the short-term rental and mitigate privacy concerns from the balconies. The property owner revised the plan and comply with all the directions from the architectural committee. And in addition to that, also remove the balcony on the north side, keeping just one of the balcony on the south side, also adding a 5-foot wall on the south side to further mitigate privacy concern. At the meeting, the applicant made a verbal request to increase the 3.5 bathroom to 4.5 bathroom. That's one additional full bath. And also committed to terminate the short-term rental in advance of the September deadlines for their contract term. The neighbors also, again, spoke against the projects, raising concerns that the owner would not follow through with terminating the short-term rental, as well as concern on the 4th full bathroom and the 6th access on the ground floor that may provide convenience for potential short-term rentals or isolated living areas. So after the public testimony, the committee deliberated on the access points and the bathroom count. They were content on the exterior changes, and so they approved the project with just 3.5 bathrooms and limited the exterior access to just 3 access points from the front entrance, rear entrance, and the garage. Okay, and then the applicant or the property owner appeal that decisions. Again, just a reminder for the 2 reasons is to add additional full bathroom to make it a 4.5 bathroom, and then add an exterior access from bedroom number 1 that will make it 4 access points. The justifications was included in the staff report. Generally, the justification from the property owner is the proposed number of bathroom is common in the immediate neighborhood and elsewhere in the cities for this larger lot. The committee's past approval for 4 bathrooms or more is also common. And also the common nature of having access to the backyard from a master bedrooms on the ground floor. And lastly, the early terminations of agreement with the property manager did follow through. That just on July 26 or so, the tenant moved out, and the contract or the letter to just terminate that was also signed by the tenant. So this table here on this slide just provide a little bit clarifications on how the project evolved. The initial proposal was of 5 bedrooms, 5.5 bathrooms, and 6 exterior access on the ground floor. At the AC June 19 approval, bedroom count's the same. Bathroom was reduced to 3.5, and the access reduced to 3 points, front, rear, and garage. With the applicant appeal, she is requesting that the current proposal is bedroom count the same, and the bathroom is 4.5 bathroom, and increase 1 access point to the bedroom number 1. Okay, this is a floor plan showing the existing, what was approved, sorry, from architectural June 19. The number in red indicates the access points here. Front, and is the 1, 2 is the rear, 3 is from the garage, 4 is from bedroom number 1, 5 is the dining room, and 6 is bedroom number 2. And as proposed right now, is just 4 access point, 1 front, 2 rear, 3 garage, 4 bedroom number 1. Also, the 4th bathroom is added in bedroom number 2. Okay, the second floor remained the same, but just an indicator for you that there's 3 bedrooms upstairs and 2 full bath. And the balcony to the south is right there, and this is that 5-foot wall there. The balcony on the north side from bedroom number 4 has been eliminated. This is the front elevation rendering, showing changes to adding stone veneer, reduce 1 gable roof to blend in with a hip style roof there. And for staff analysis, we look at the 2 main issues. One is design, and the other is use and consistency with the zoning code. So for design, the projects provide parkings, 2 attached covered parking spaces on site. So there's no additional traffic congestions or hazards. And the character of neighborhood is the same, with a 2-story height, under 25 feet, with a lot of steps in. Looks and feel like a single-family homes from the appearance from the outside. Privacy, health, comfort, and general welfare. There's a lot of efforts to reduce privacy with eliminations of the balcony to the north and all the second-story side-facing windows or 5-foot window sill. And it meets the single-family design guidelines. It's a less than 66% of the first floor. The second floor is just under that, and it's 5 bedrooms house on a 11,000 square foot lot, meeting all the setback standards. Consistent with the zoning code, the single-family zoning intent. This is a single-family zoning district. The intent is for single-family. The floor plans is an open floor plans, 2 bedrooms on the bottom, 3 bedrooms, mainly bedrooms on the top with a laundry room. All access from the bedrooms are shared in the common area. So if just the look and the feel of the floor plan still reads as a single-family home. It's also common to have 4 bathrooms or more in the neighborhood, as verified from the list of properties that the applicant sent. Also, it is also common to have an exterior access to the rear yard for the first floor or for ground floor bedrooms. Lastly, the city doesn't have any current land use regulations for short-term, long-term rental. And as you're aware, we are in the process of doing that, updating that for the zoning code update. So for those reasons, staff recommends the Plan Commission sustain the appeal, modify the decisions of the Architectural Committee on June 19th to allow 5 bedrooms and 4.5 bathrooms with an exterior access to bedroom number 1. That concludes staff presentations. I can answer any questions. The applicant is also here to present and answer questions.
Oh, wait, can you see those? Because you don't have his, oh, she's going to prompt you.
Chair Salam, can you please turn on your microphone, please? Thank you.
Sorry about that. Commissioner Jane first.
Yeah, so to staff, I have a few questions. First, it seems like the applicant is asking to add a little room in the garage called an exercise space. Is that
Right.
going to be conditioned space?
Um, it would not necessarily be a conditioned space if it's just for workout equipment.
Well, that's important because you have to add it to the square footage of the house, right?
It is included in the square foot of the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other question is, the report said that, you know, this number of bathrooms and this number of bedrooms is common, but I see that there are properties listed as far as Scott Boulevard. So if you look at the percentage of houses that have this many bedrooms and bathrooms, do you have any sense of what percentage that is?
I do not.
Okay.
Chair, I'm sorry, Commissioner Jane, just to remark that the properties that she indicated had the 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom were properties that were approved in 2019. There's 2 different tables. Then
Yeah.
the other one is in the immediate neighborhood. So just to say, in 2019, there were
Yeah.
a fair number of properties approved with this ratio.
I understand that there were some, but I don't know what percentage of the total number of properties. That would be important for how common it is. And then I wanted to understand, what was the rationale for having 6 entrances and exits? That seems very uncommon. I've been on ARC and I have never seen that before.
So as far as I'm aware, we were not given a justification, so that's a question best answered by the applicant.
Okay. And then I guess I had another question. The door that they're requesting for the master bedroom is a double door,
Mhm.
and that's, I guess, lockable from the outside. If we were to change that to a sliding door that were not lockable from the outside, that would be more standard for a single-family home, wouldn't it?
Yes.
And that way, it conceivably could not be an apartment because no one could lock it by leaving that door. Is that correct?
I would be careful with getting into that level of detail strictly because anybody in the city can rent out a separate bedroom if they want to. And so that level of detail, could be
But
changed.
not with an exterior door.
Well,
That's very uncommon.
I'm not saying it's common or if it's thought out in advance, but if somebody wants to change out a door and it's the same opening size, there's not a building permit requirement. If somebody wants to put that in, they could. It just depends of whether, right now it's subject to architectural approval. So, but it's just a very difficult situation to try to monitor if it was to be changed out at a later date.
Well, like anything, it would be subject to if neighbors complained that this
Mm-hmm.
were being used as a boarding house or something like that, then the city would go inspect and see if, interior walls were built or the doors had been changed out or something like that. Is that correct?
Well, yes and no. We don't really have a true definition of a boarding house since the time
I
that that
understand.
definition was included. There has been since, state and federal regulation prohibiting those types of, kind of assumptions.
But we may have
So-
a rule on
yeah.
the amount of common space, because if they subdivide it and take away some of the common space, then they would violate our proposed zoning ordinance.
Those issues aside,
Yeah.
as we're not talking about those specific ordinances today, the sliding glass door issue, the commonality of that being more prevalent in terms of what you see with house designs, and that being a justification for why you think it would be more appropriate to have a sliding door versus, a closed door makes, is enough justification for wanting to make a change like that as well.
Okay. And then there was a community meeting with the neighbors, and I was kind of surprised that parking didn't come up in that meeting. You said that there were 2 complaints. One was privacy and balconies, but parking didn't come up?
Parking came up at the public hearing.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I think Commissioner Biagini's next, and then
So I want to make sure I understand something. When we talk short-term rentals, we're talking like Airbnb, right? Okay, so if regulations in the, I'm afraid to say near future, can I just say future? Somehow render the current applicant's design plans, because of what I'm understanding, what he wants to change from the architectural review proposal that was approved to now is an additional entrance and an additional bathroom. But should the short-term rental Airbnb ordinance that we may have in the future somehow indicate that this is out of compliance, would the applicant then have to go through the expense of changing, or would it be okay because it happened before the regulation was put into effect?
So a couple things. The city is evaluating and is bringing forward short-term rental regulations as part of the zoning code update. There is a study session with the Planning Commission and the City Council scheduled for
Right.
October 8th. What staff is proposing now, based on outreach with workshops, is limiting the number of days that unhosted rentals could occur, as well as occupancy limits, as well as limits on how long even hosted rentals could occur. These are kind of common best practices in neighboring communities.
Okay.
And those regulations, you know, the council obviously has the discretion, as well as the planning commission, to change any aspects of what our recommendation are. But those, as staff are recommending them, would be citywide. And the fact that a practice is continuing today, upon an ordinance taking effect that would be applicable citywide, that would be then applicable citywide. So the practice, it's a practice, not necessarily the building itself. The
No,
building isn't
gotcha.
what's creating the short-term rental. It's
The issue of short- I
the
think-
use
yeah, I
of the
think I know what you're
building
saying.
is what we
I think I
do not
understand what
have
you're saying.
regulations for today that we anticipate having regulations for in the near future.
I think I understand that what you're saying is, based on the current proposal, what you're looking at would not affect the current proposal from the applicant, right? It's more an issue of usage than it is an issue of how many bedrooms and how many bathrooms and so forth. I think I had another question, and right now it escapes me. So, okay, thank you.
Commissioner Chiricuo.
I don't have a question. It was answered up front. Thanks.
So I'm going to say, I was saving Mike two questions. First, that's a procedural question. Since this design was actually substantially revised from the time it went through Architectural Review Committee, why is it returning to the Planning Commission first without having an opportunity to review at the Architectural Review Committee and then be challenged?
That's because that discussion was brought forward. First of all, they were told to revise the proposal to meet the 3.5 bedrooms I'm sorry, 3.5 bathrooms and the 5 bedrooms. That's what they came back with. There was not support by the community or the consensus of the committee to have more than that. So that's why it's proceeding here. There was really a decision made just to render a decision on that application, and then if anyone was aggrieved by that decision, they could file the appeal, and that's why it's here before you this evening.
Okay, well, that actually answered my second question, so we're good to go. Any other comments or concerns from the commissions?
No,
Commissioners?
I'd like to hear actually from
Yeah,
the
all right, so I think it's good at this point to move on to hear the applicant's proposal. 10 minutes on the clock, I believe.
Oh, okay. Could you wait till we get the timer up so you get your full 10 minutes?
And her mic's not on.
It's 10 minutes? Okay.
I don't see a light. I don't see a light.
Speaker.
Hello? Okay. Hi, everyone, and so also commission member and also all the neighbor. So I'm glad to be here, be talking about my project, my application. So I'm Jane, I'm the owner of the property, and I bought the property last year in August, and so we want to build as our kind of dream home. And our family already lived in Santa Clara for about 10 years. We're like all the immigrants. We come to US and starting living in the apartment. Then a couple years, we'll be able to move in condo. and then to the townhouse. Currently, we're living in townhouse. And after 10 years working in the US, so finally we feel like we are ready. We really want to build the dream house, which is a single family house. And I shared this kind of our vision with the commission and also a committee during the past two times hearings. So this is what we're planning to do. And the reason why we want to originally want 5 bedrooms and 5.5 bathrooms is because currently we have our family only have 3 people: myself, my husband, and my son. And also, as a Chinese nationality, and our tradition is our parents will visit and staying with us quite frequently. So since they are getting older, so we are planning to let them to stay with us kind of permanently. Currently, just visits us probably like one kind of half a year, a couple months every year. But since they are kind of already turning over 76 years old. So I think maybe it's not good for them to travel internationally. So that's kind of when we do the house planning, we do put that in consideration. And also the second consideration why we ask the bathroom for each room is because before we do that, we see kind of trends for now, all the new house, they tend to build each bathroom for each bedrooms. We want to adapt it because when we rebuild the house, well, we want it lasting for at least decades. So as like you can see all the neighborhood in just like next to our property, some of them, they already have a 4-bedroom and 4 baths. And some of them, as I show, have a 6 or 5 or 5, 6. So some neighbors already take action to improve their living condition. So I think since we're gonna spend money to demolish the house and we're planning to the property can kind of standing for decades. So that's why we want to put the kind of advanced, more modern design. So we ask for the additional exterior entrance is with a similar consideration. And since I'm it's the first time for me to go through the process. So for me, I really have no idea about the company, the city's regulation and code. I'm more like, I feel like I just like do propose what I want, but I want willing to hear back from the city with is allowed. So actually, after the first meeting, so we hear from the city and also the neighbors' concerns. So we do make some modifications, but we never say we will accept the 3.5 bathrooms. But we really just follow the instruction to say we have to provide whatever approved. Then during the meeting, we can address our concerns and ask for that. So that's why I still verbally request to get 4.5 bathrooms during the second meeting. And so during the time, why I insist to keep the one more bathroom, full bathroom in the first floor, because I shared with the committee and a neighbor before, because my mom and dad, they divorced. But I want them to visit me and feel like if they have to share a bathroom, a little bit awkward. So that's why as I have a ability, afford a better living condition, so I want them, when they visit me, they can just like stay in their room and have their own bathroom or both in the first floor. So it's more like a consideration for my family and getting older parents. So those are all the kind of background information, what I'm doing. And during the time, and so I provided information. So I checked on the kind of public information from the Zillow and the Redfin. So in the very close neighborhood, it's very kind of common. At least I have more than 23 kind of the house, just very close in the immediate neighborhood. They have a bathroom for the 5 and 4.5, and the 6, 5, and 5 bedrooms with 6 bathrooms, and 3 bedrooms with 5 bathrooms. Kind of quite varied. So which means within the city code, so the property owner do have kind of the right or ability to build the house which is most suitable for their family needs. And also during the same time, I checked the public record. So during the same time for this year, the committee also approved actually nine house planning with 4 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, 5 bedroom, 5 bathroom, and also during exactly the same hearing with my project proposed, they approved 5 bedrooms with 5 bathrooms and 6 bathrooms with 4. So I want to show this consistency, which is from the committee and from the city. This is really kind of, it's not uncommon to request 5 bedrooms and 4.5. And then I want to talk about the concerns from the neighbors. Okay, so first, from the starting point, I learned the building process really take time to get a design and submit, get approval, will take a long time. And since this house kind of the mortgage, if I have to take, currently I'm taking 2 mortgages, it's kind of a kind of burden financially. So I just want to rent it out, and while I go through all the approval process, help my mortgage. So I just rented it to my tenant, my previous tenant, and just like for a flat rate. But they didn't tell me they're gonna run it as Airbnb. So when the neighbor raised the issue to me, I did consult with the city, and also I consulted my personal attorney to say is any kind of issue. And then, so I learned, so actually currently there's no any regulation to prohibit any short-term, long-term rental. And also I talked with my tenant to say, is there any way to settle that? But from the beginning, they did ask to say, yeah, I need to compensate that. But the amount that they are asked, I cannot afford it. And I checked with my attorney to see is there any way to do anything to terminate. And the answer is say, looks like as long they, unless they are willing to terminate with you kind of with no any kind of compensation request, otherwise there's no way for you to terminate the contract with any kind of compensation for damage from them side. So then with this conversation, but I keep doing the conversation, and also meanwhile, we get a request from Neon's office, and so I invited my tenant and myself coming to the police office, just to explain the whole thing, the whole story. We keep share with all the people who ever involved. And so then later on, last time in June, I did share with committee and also the neighbor to say, I'm in my effort to terminate the lease early. But because at that time I haven't finalized with the tenant what's the final day, so I cannot say exactly what time. But after that, after last time of hearing, I finally confirmed the final day with my tenant, and also I forwarded a confirmation email to the city staff on July 1st. So actually on July 1st, I already informed the city to say the early termination day will be on July 26th. And when I submit my appeal letter on June 26th, already indicated I will put my effort to make sure to terminate the lease the end of July. So I just say I do my effort to try to do something, but if something kind of really kind of beyond my financial ability to afford, so there's kind of hardship on me. But actually, I never stop to communicate with my neighborhood and also leave my cell phone. My tenant left them their phone to the committee and the city to see if any issues unexpected or not comfortable, call us. But since I left my cell phone to the neighbors in April, I never received any call or message. And also my tenant, and they left their cell phone information to the neighbor. And probably in the first probably 1 or 2 months, they did get some calls, and also sometimes they call 911, but everything all resolved. There's no kind of significance, but all be taken care of. And later on, I checked with my tenant and say they didn't receive any further kind of things to be addressed. And during the June, I also share with the committee to say, because the neighbors say, oh, their concern is say 18 beds, probably 18 people stayed in the house, but we do show, I asked the tenant to show how many people live there. It can, actually, as we shared, typically it's 7 to 8 people. There's 4 people is long-term, and 3 people, 2 or 3 people probably short-term come and go. So those are the things what we've already done and share with the neighbor and the committee. Yeah, so I think that's all. Thank you.
So if the commissioners have questions for the applicant, all right, well, we'll start with Commissioner Biagini.
Oh, I actually hadn't written yet that I had a question, but I'll go ahead. I'm not sure that I heard you clearly. So regardless of any past approvals or not, what was the driving force to add, since I think June, another bedroom and another bathroom? Excuse me, another entrance and another bathroom? Because it looks like this keeps changing, and I'm trying to understand what the driving force is for the continual changing, which seems to be adding every time it changes.
Okay, so actually my original application is 5 bedrooms and with 5.5
Right.
bathrooms. So,
Right.
but because the city committee and the neighbors' concerns, so actually I just proposed to reduce it. So
Right.
actually I didn't add it. I just tried to say apply to keep 4.5 bathrooms. I didn't add it. I didn't add it back. My
No,
original.
I understand that, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is, you were at 5 baths, the neighbors had some conversations with the neighbors, you changed it to 3.5, and it looks like within weeks, it's pushed back up to another bathroom and another entrance, and I'm trying to figure out what was the driving force between going here, coming down, and then going back up.
Oh, okay. So here I think probably kind of miscommunication. I never agreed on 3.5. Why the reason I submitted 3.5 is because the guidance from the city to say because the first meeting approval is 3.5. In order for me to present at the second meeting, first I need to show the 3.5, which is approved, but I can verbally to request to say I would like to keep 4.5. So that's how it goes. I never change my mind. I say I hear their concerns, so I see I can reduce 1, but I want to keep 4.5.
And that was on advice from your attorney, that you could do that?
Uh,
I thought I heard you say that.
Oh yeah, for that part I didn't consult with my attorney because for that part I just follow whatever the city staff tell me the procedures. Because I did ask because clearly my application to say I'm willing to accommodate, but I want to keep at least the 4.5. Yeah, so that's why I didn't see any reason I have to consult with my attorney for that part because I didn't think or realize is any issue on that part if I follow the city, the guidance, yeah.
No other questions right now.
Through the chair.
Just put your hands up, that might help.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay, Commissioner Cherko.
thanks. So is the contract, your short-term agreement, terminated as of July 26th? We are on August 14th today.
Yeah,
What-
so
what
it's
is the
already,
status?
vacant,
So it's a vacant property today?
yes.
Okay. That's all I had.
Commissioner Jane, any questions?
Yeah. So I guess I'm following on the question that I asked of staff, your exercise room in the garage, is that going to be air conditioned?
No,
It's just, there's going to have walls in the garage.
yeah, it's
but
just
it-
like complete together, it's not separate, there's no wall within the garage, will be the part of the garage as a whole, yeah.
I see. And why do you need walls to put exercise equipment in there? I don't
Yeah.
quite understand.
Yeah, because my son, he likes to play the ping pong. So currently we put a ping pong table in the garage. And also we have a walking, running machine and biking kind of things. So we feel like if we put a ping pong table and at the same time put all the kind of exercise machine, there's no place. We can park the car on the driveway. But since we already, our currently townhouse, the garage, we put the things. So that's why we want to apply for that extra additional area.
Well, there's actually a condition of approval that you're not going to store things in the garage, that it needs to be left available for parking cars. That's in the condition of approvals.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's in there.
Well, can I just clarify?
Condition
that-
number 1.
Yeah, the workout room is really an extension off the garage. It's not enclosed by 4 walls.
It shows that on the plans.
Not the one I have. It's just a door that's going to the side entrance. It's not enclosed.
Right, you can see it. There's no wall there.
That's the door that's open.
Okay, well, all right. I'm mistaken. Okay.
So they can put the sports equipment there, but the 2
Correct,
car
correct. I
spaces are what has
understand.
to remain open.
I understand. When I looked at the plans, I thought there was a wall there, and it looked like it could be converted to a bedroom or something. But, okay. So, I think what you understand is that there's a number of neighbors that are concerned that this is going to turn into a lot of people there with a lot of cars and a lot of traffic. And so what we're trying to do as a commission is trying to reduce the probability that, people that want to have lots of bedrooms and lots of master enclosed bathrooms makes it easier for people to rent them out. And that's where we're coming from. That's what we're trying to do, is to, and I know you want to use it for your family, but often these things get turned into short-term rentals. So we want to limit the impact on the community, which is privacy and the number of cars and the amount of traffic. So, thank you.
Okay, so I think first, as stated, so currently there's no regulation to prohibit any short-term and long-term rental. So currently there's no violation on the public code. And the secondary, if I want to rent it out, I don't have to demolish the house. If I want to do, currently I can do it, right? And if you rented a property, you don't want to invest so many money, just like rebuild it and rent it out. It's financially, it's not reasonable. So I just say, and also another point I back to the attorney here say, the meeting, I really want everyone think about is the building, whether fit the kind of the code requirement. Because if I am a person, right, if I misbehave, I should be disciplined for another law or regulations. And also you cannot punish a person because you make one mistake, then you just punish whatever other things permanently apply in different law. So I think that's my understanding. And yeah.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay.
So-
Commissioner Cherukuri.
Thank you. So where do you live right now? Are you within the city?
Yeah, Santa Clara. Yeah.
And that is your own home?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Condo, right?
Townhouse.
Townhouse.
Yeah.
It's a townhouse? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Commissioner Biagini.
So I think I'm understanding with the financial load this puts on you, that there is an intent for A, the family to live there and your parents, and B, to do some short-term rentals as well? Am I correct? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but am I correct in understanding that that's the intent?
You mean for the previous arrangement or in the future?
I mean for the current, what you're looking to do currently.
Okay, so first I already terminated the lease. So currently
No,
there's
yes,
no,
understood.
there's no lease. But I think my original intent is to help my mortgage because I currently have 2 mortgage, right? I have to afford, but it's really kind of a financial burden for me. And also I learned what take at 6 or 8 months to get the whole process approval. So that's why I just rented it out as a 1-year lease with a flat fee. Yeah. So
there's not going to be any more short-term rentals in the house after it's completed?
So actually, I just say, no matter the result, actually, I want my application get approved. But if I cannot get it approved tonight, and if I have to rent it out, I will definitely not do the Airbnb short-term lease because first I stated when I rent it out, that my tenant, they didn't share with me to say they're gonna do Airbnb. And secondary, during the process, I already learned the concerns. And also I have a conversation with the neighbor. If I'm the property owner, yeah, definitely I want my community is good, right? So from those 2 considerations, even if I have to rent it out.
Can
Oh,
we
you mean,
Yes.
oh,
keep
sorry, I
conversation?
missed
That's
the change.
okay. I
Oh,
wanted
sorry.
you to finish your thought, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I just say I will looking for a long-term kind of lease if I have to. But for my plan for the future, if I build a house, yeah, I will for my family leave because otherwise financially, I'm not an investor. It's not worth and it's not reasonable.
Excuse me, sir, all the questions need to be directed
Yeah,
to the
I
chair.
think-
It's not
let
an
me try,
interaction
'cause
with the applicant. Thank you.
So it's kind of a yes or a no. In the future, if this gets approved, are you looking at continuing some sort of renting out of an extra bedroom or what have you to help with your financial load?
So as of now,
Is that
no.
your intent, to have it?
No intent.
So you don't have any plans to do any more rentals in the future if this is approved?
If I rebuild it, yeah.
If you
If I get approval to rebuild whatever I proposed, yeah, no,
no more rentals.
yeah.
Okay, so I had a question for staff. Is there any other aspect of this revised plan that falls outside of the guidelines?
No.
Okay, that's good. I think at this point, we should open it up to public hearing. I have speaker cards for Jerry Campi, Paul, I'm not going to say Creeper, but Creeper, all right. Shelley Woodworth, Margie Bauman, Joe Garcia, Mary Smoker, and Michael Falls. Doesn't have to be in that specific order, but it would be helpful. So each speaker, I think, will have 2 minutes.
Could you state your name when you come
And
up,
state your
please?
name and your position.
Hi, my name is Jerry Campy. I live at 517 Bancroft Street in Santa Clara, down the street from this residence. Oh, time started. The use of this home since October as an 18-bed Airbnb has drawn the attention of many neighbors. The owner has told us that she will be using the home for her own personal use. The property manager that ran the Airbnb referred to Jane as a property investor. For this reason, along with the experiences we've had this past year, many of us are worried about the future use of the home. She just said she was not going to rent it. We're still worried. The number of master suites proposed through the different renditions of the plans, as well as exterior doorways into bedrooms and other parts of the home, would make it quite easy for this house to be set up to rent individual rooms with private entrances in the future. The owner of this house has said one thing and done another on a few occasions. She signed the purchase document stating she would move into the house within 60 days as her primary residence. She has never moved into this house. The second time the project went to architectural committee, she submitted as a 5-bedroom, 3.5 bath, only to verbally change it to 4.5 bath and offer to try to shut down the Airbnb if her request was granted. I believe she hoped the neighbors would not show up at the meeting since she applied for 3.5 baths. With her original plans of 5.5 bathrooms, I am concerned that she may want to eventually add an additional bathroom. For this reason, regardless of what version is approved tonight, I request that all inspectors watch for additional plumbing pipes being put in during construction. It would make the addition of the 5th bath next to bedroom number upstairs, I can't see the bedroom number now, in the closet, very, very easy. As her plans presented tonight, this property will effectively have 3 master suites, rooms with bathrooms solely accessed via the bedroom. There are a number of homes in our neighborhood with 2 master suites. However, 3 master suites is setting a precedent that I would rather not have. The extremely large balcony, 9 foot by 8 feet, 9 feet by 10 feet, is over 2 times larger than the city's guidelines. We have a non-permitted 2-story deck behind our home that extremely impacts our privacy. I don't want to see that as a precedent in our neighborhood either. Thank you.
Good evening. So I'm Shelley Woodworth, and I have concerns about that this is consistent with the R1 zoning. So if you look at your R1 zoning, it says no boarding homes or anything that functions like that. Right now, it's really being functioned or until the 27th as a youth hostel, if you guys are familiar with that, without any sort of monitoring. We've had problems with urinating in the public areas, with people sleeping in their vehicles, with people fighting, with drugs, etc. So just to be clear, this is something that our code enforcement, which I believe is in our planning department, is not really acting on, and they seem to think it's fine, and they keep telling us that the term boarding house is antiquated. The problem is it doesn't say just boarding house, it says anything like that. Our CCNRs also say that. CCNRs are approved by the city attorney every time a development comes forward, but they are not enforced by the city. So I'm really kind of confused why we have the CCNRs though. So we're dealing with that on our own. Also, I do agree with Jerry that bedroom number 3, there is a closet next to it, which would easily make that a full bathroom, the powder room that exists now. And on the 2nd floor, you have a very large closet that makes the minimum requirement to create next to bedroom, that's bedroom 3, a full bathroom next to that as well. Those can be added through the building permit process without any planning review because you will not have any exterior modifications. I see that happen all the time in the city that I work in. The other thing is I believe that 6 entrances is excessive. That is not typical in this city. I don't know where people are thinking that's typical in the city, and I think it's unreasonable. And when she did agree originally to the 3.5 baths when we had the neighborhood meeting, it was a bargaining sort of tool. She kept saying, well, if you agree to this, I'll do this. Well, you decide. So I think that what the main concern with this neighborhood is that we're not seeing honesty. And that is really insulting because she tells us in one hand she wants to be part of our community, which I'll be honest, it's going to be very difficult to welcome her.
Margie Bowman. I live at 2876 Sycamore Way, 3 houses down or 2 houses down. In addition to what Jerry has mentioned and Shelley mentioned too, the 2 upstairs closets have windows in them. they could very easily be turned into a bathroom or even a tiny bedroom because they are huge. So the potential is there to have 5 rentable master bedrooms, which, because of the recent history of the homeowner running an unhosted hostel for 18 different people every night coming and going, our neighborhood is concerned this could continue after the new house is built at a whole different level. Thank you.
I am Joe Garcia. This is from my parents. I'm reading this. We are concerned with the future use of the public property. We know for a fact current owners committed mortgage fraud in order to get a preferred loan as owner occupant. The owners are entered into the contract with the intent to occupy with husband, wife, and child. I bring this up simply to display character. As you know, it doesn't matter how many family members occupy an R1 residence. The current property at 2892 Sycamore has demonstrated a lack of respect and created an unsafe environment for the many families within the Forest Park development. I don't trust the home will be used for the owner occupancy purposes based on her initial proposal and continued efforts to obtain more baths and unrealistic amount of private and separate entrances. The owner has initially agreed to the three and a half baths and now is pushing to expand again. We did hire an attorney to stop the illegal use of the property and force her to comply with the CCNRs in our preliminary report. Please do try to limit to 3.5 that she agreed to. Please remove the balcony that will be overlooking our smallish backyard and hot tub to ensure our privacy. There has been an extreme pushback within the neighborhood going to the guidelines and will be respected and followed by all. Just to help you understand the use, there have been over 2,000 individuals that have stayed in this home from October 2018 to July of 2019. Meanwhile, no owner, manager, or site has handled the various issues. You had asked to define boarding. I mean, it's pretty simple. When you have 2,000 people come in within 9 to 10 months, that's crazy. I mean, nobody wants that in their neighborhood. You have nobody to talk to ask for help on it. It's just kind of crazy. And she did know about the Airbnb because it was removed 1 week prior to the first initial showing of the, what do you call it? No, that's it. Okay, thank you very much.
Good evening. My name's Mary Smoker, and I live directly right next door to this property, so we have seen a lot in the last 10 months. When she says that there's only been 7 or 8, that is not an honest statement, which shows the character. So the promises of, I just want this for our family, very suspicious, and it's very hard to trust that she's not going to turn around, add a wall, turn the pipes, make an additional bathroom, and make this into a mini hotel. And we're back with our parking issues and no monitoring of this. So this has been a very contentious, very difficult situation for us. We just want our neighborhood. We just want to live in our nice Santa Clara city. And this has turned into a fiasco. And we're really worried that it's going to continue. The promises of my family's just going to live here and that she's going to get it built and turn around and be able to do whatever she wants, interior, and the people will start coming in from the exterior. So I'm fear for not being able to trust what she's saying. So thank you.
So before we move on, I have a question for staff. There would be no way to add additional interior bathrooms without building inspections and permits, correct?
Yes, under the law, all those interior improvements would require building permits.
Okay. And then an inspector at some point would be able to verify?
You mean if there's illegal construction?
Yes.
It would depend upon what the basis is for the complaint, and because there has to be reasonable proof that there's some type of violation. We can't just enter people's property.
Oh, I understand. Okay. Thank you. Next.
Mike Fales, neighbor. I just wanted to voice a general concern about the city taking positions about we cannot enforce not using properties as boarding houses, because in saying that, what's happening is our community or our neighborhood has CCNRs that that are part of the property when the buyer procures the property. Those are enforceable by the neighborhood. However, when the city takes a position that we're not gonna enforce that, they should caveat it by saying, but we're not condoning you not abiding by the covenants of whether it's a homeowners or CCNRs of a neighborhood. And that's what's happened in this, is where I didn't hear them say that I couldn't do it, and they're taking it as it's okay to do, and it's not. And you're basically enabling people to do things against the community that has bought with those CCNRs involved. So that's what the comment I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Jeff Smoker, and I reside with Mary Smoker right next to this property that we're talking about. I want to focus on three things in the limited time that I have. I want to talk about inclusivity, diversity, and also accountability. In terms of being inclusive, we are a very inclusive neighborhood in that we welcome with open arms any of our neighbors. We welcome one day to have Jane, if she is willing to comply with the guidelines. As you have heard, there are a number of different concerns that have been raised in the past. As indicated, we welcome the diversity, we welcome inclusion, but we are also asking this council to look at the accountability factor. There are questions that have been raised by Jerry Campy in terms of the veracity of the statements that she has made, the reversal, the issues that have come up. There are some legitimate concerns that we have as neighbors. We have welcomed an opportunity that Jane extended to us to come and meet and look at the information and look at the plans. We are greatly concerned about what may happen in the future. Commissioner Biagini, we welcome your perspective with asking very directly and inquiring, are there going to be future rentals? We have serious concerns that there will be future rentals based upon past performance. I ask all of you to consider our positions this evening and to weigh them with a certain amount of gravity and render a decision that is fair and reasonable for all. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Paul Krieger. I wanted to be last because my point of view is somewhat different from everything else, and I didn't want to break the continuity. Oops, you started. Subject, clear and complete proof of ownership of Lot 178, Tract 2531, Forest Park, Unit Number 3. Again, clear and complete proof of ownership. The grant deed dated July 31st, 2018, prepared by the Orange Coast Title Company of Northern California, is a disappointing example of how little a title company can get by without claiming to be serving the client. In the 1950s, Santa Clara, California was a boomtown being built. The city's leadership, along with various land use developers, provided not only quality homes, they recognized the need for suggesting and documenting some rules of the road. Doing this could bring continuity and long-lasting neighborhood community. Forest Park has met in many cases the objectives previously set up. However, government law is now seeking ways and means to include more individuals regardless of their competency and objectives. We respectfully request that the City of Santa Clara, using the subject land and land use fiasco as a starting point, delay its approval until such time as the city can upgrade its organizational structure, procedures, documentation, and ongoing policies. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else from the public that'd like to speak? You simply need to move up to the mic at this point. Perhaps give us a card after. That's okay.
Speaker, but I sit here and I would have to say that we have been residents in Forest Park for 59
Ma'am,
years.
could you please give us your name?
Oh, I'm Eleanor Krager. I belong to Paul. Our concern is we do not live on Bancroft in the immediate area, just a block or block and a half away. Our concern is that we are just blessed with new families coming in and going to enjoy family life in a real residential area that we have known in raising our children. And I really would like to see it protected in whatever way we can, that it can be a family-oriented residential situation, as our CCRs tell us. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Joe Garcia. I'm the neighbor of the property in question here, 2892 Sycamore. I'm not going to go ahead and reiterate everything else that has been already stated here. I'm really concerned because I am the direct neighbor that they're proposing a huge balcony. We have a smallish backyard at 2886 Sycamore Way, and we have a hot tub there. They're proposing a balcony, I think, of about 9 by 12 feet. We will have no privacy. And I just would like you to consider that, to have that either be, I just can't see them having it there. For my wife and my family to go ahead and take a nice, little hot bath there and to be subjected to the exposure. That's it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wanted to speak tonight? If not, then I'll accept motion to close public hearing.
Second. Motion to close public hearing, seconded by Biagini. I'm sorry, were we supposed to have a rebuttal?
Yes.
We need to have a rebuttal.
I'm sorry, we have to cancel that. The applicant has 5 minutes to rebut. If she'd like.
So first, I want to answer the.
Could you wait till we start the clock, please?
Okay. Okay. So actually, first, I want to say I never agree to stay with the 3.5 bathrooms. And when I have a meeting with a neighbor, I did invite one person as a witness, and her name is Jenny. I just showed the 2 proposals. The reason I show the 2 proposals, because I already mentioned, it's guided by the city staff to say, in order to come to next meeting, at least I have to prepare whatever already approved, but I can present my application will keep the 4.5. So during the meeting with the neighbor, I show the 2 plans, and I listen to their concerns. The purpose of the meeting to listen to their concerns, and also I share with them my vision, why we want to build a dream home. I think that's the purpose of the meeting with the neighbor. And then second, about mentioned, say, more than 18 people live in the house and 2,000 people come in and out. So I don't know how they calculate it. The only thing right now is a record through the third-party Airbnb online. So during last meeting, I showed the record from Airbnb, all the reservation. So back then, that time, only 7 reservation. So this is all I can provide because I'm not a physical stay there. The only thing I just refer to third party, I ask my tenant provide the record. And the next thing about the, okay, so hire attorney to stop the lease. As I mentioned, say, when I submit my appeal letter on June 26th, I already stated I will end the lease the end of July. And also during the hearing in June 17th, I also told the committee and the neighbor I'm in my effort to terminate the lease earlier. But because that time, the date hasn't been finalized, so I cannot say guarantee what time. But when I submit my opinion letter, I already say I will make sure at the end of the July. Actually, I'll be able to terminate earlier, July 26th. So this is not because they send me the letter, the attorney letter. It's because I have a good faith. I do my effort to do whatever I can do. And then another thing. Okay, another thing about the balcony. So I want to add it. So currently, if you look at the design, my house have a very deep setback. For each side, both sides have about 15 feet setback. And secondary, the balcony is not a kind of additional build out. It's just like on top of the first floor, the master bedroom in the first floor. So that's kind of thing I want to clarify. So here, I still want to say, here I think I want to review the design, and I hope the commission can consider the common practice and also the current the regulation of the city, which is allowed and which is prohibited. So as a kind of the city resident, I follow the regulations, and also within kind of the range of how I can afford it, I already take actions as early as possible, and I'm willing to accommodate. But I also mentioned why I want to keep the 4.5 bathrooms. And also that when it's not I didn't I add one more exterior entrance to the back. I just like listening to the comments. I want to keep that. The first floor, the master bedroom, the exterior entrance to the backyard. So I just say this is our common practice, and also I follow the rules and the city regulations. There's no any intention to violate any law or regulations here. And also I always try my best to accommodate. So please put that in consideration. And also I want to put the comments to say, currently, we are reviewing the design of the building, and also if I'm the owner, if I would misbehave, I should be disciplined by different regulations accordingly, right? So I just say we don't want to put the two different things in one kind of a category regulations. Thank you.
Do you have questions for the applicant? Any?
Yeah.
Commissioner Biagini?
Hi, thank you for coming up and giving your rebuttal. But I have to say this. It's concerning to me. Well, let me start by saying Commissioner Jane said earlier, certainly the kind of sentiment that I also share, that there's a concern about the neighborhood. I see a lot of people here, and I've heard a lot of people speak, none that seem to be in support, all that seem to have questions. That's concerning to me, but even if we set all of that aside, the balcony, the issue of parking, who used to be in the house but isn't anymore, I'm looking at another factor that says if things were to change, and all of us have lives that have changes that we can't foresee today, and the house was built as you are currently requesting, and then you sold it, the opportunity for that house to then turn into the type of thing that I think the neighbors are really concerned about seems to loom rather large. And I'm concerned about the flavor of the neighborhood. So I just wanted to let you know how I felt about it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So I'll make a simple comment, neither in support or against the applicant, but I have a 5-bedroom home. It has 4 entrances on the first floor. It's not a rental Airbnb or anything like that. I think our concern for how this applicant wants to use her home is not ours to determine. I think what we need to do is make sure we stay within the guidelines for the city ordinances and building standards, and that we still respect the feelings of the neighborhood and trying to help get a compromise that everybody can be happy with. And it may be that this design as proposed is getting closer, but not far enough to meet the needs of a compatible and happy set of neighbors. So I'm concerned.
Vice Chair,
Yes.
is this like to the applicant, or are you
It's
closing
more
public
to
comment?
us, but I wanted to understand from the applicant, would you be willing to allow the city to have a scheduled inspection of your home in a year or in 2 years to verify that the majority of the concerns that the neighbors are proposing or concerned about aren't being caused. Like you didn't try and create another bathroom, and you didn't close off more bedrooms, and you didn't make more space. I think people would feel really reassured if they knew that you could be held accountable if those concerns actually came to true.
Yeah, so more welcome, no problem, anytime, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Close.
Is, I have to ask the attorney, is that legal?
A good question.
Oh, if the applicant consents to an inspection, yes, but we cannot force ourselves, the city can't force an
Correct.
inspection.
But if she were to say, 2 years after taking occupancy, that the city could come in and do an inspection?
Again, with consent, it's okay.
I see.
That's exactly why I was asking it that way.
I just also wanted to say this will run with the land, right? But the property ownership may change. And so the consent is based on who is owning the property at the time.
Can it be applied as a stipulation to the permits?
I would not do that. I mean, we could put in language that said, upon consent of the owner, the city can conduct an inspection, but again, it would enforce essentially what Attorney Fazeli was saying.
I guess generally these are driven by neighbor complaints. So as soon as a neighbor complains, then the city could potentially go in and inspect.
Okay, so within the bounds of legal appropriateness, I would kind of suggest that as one of our recommendations for approval, if that is the next level.
May I add a comment?
Yes.
Okay, so I just say the city already did that, because once the city first received the complaint from the neighbor, the city sent me the letter to say they want to come to inspect. I just give them access. So I just say if you want to consider history, I always accommodate, there's no problem, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, now I actually do move to close public hearing. Oh, I can't. I have to accept a nomination for closing.
Move to close public hearing?
Second. Second was,
She's waiting for put the
Thank you.
motion on the screen.
got it. You're still holding the second from the first action. I seconded this time.
Okay, I'll change it. I can't change it on the screen right now,
That's
but I'll change it in the record.
That's okay. Doesn't matter.
All right. Are there, yes, I figured.
Yeah, this is the one I've been waiting for. So
Go ahead.
I've been holding my comments based primarily on all the concerns stated so far. This is more from my perspective. I have been in the planning field for quite a while, and I do understand staff's recommendation. I do understand as a member of this community and very familiar with this neighborhood. My kids go right to Milliken right there. That it is a common, and we hope that the ordinance comes forward soon that would alleviate some of these concerns about 5 bedrooms homes becoming boarding homes and, uncontrolled Airbnbs. However, we are seeing this influx and the change in the community where as our abilities and income levels rise, the interest and family goals also are significant. So 5 bedrooms, I know that community is pretty common in that neighborhood. Whether it's 3.5 bath or 4 bath, in the end, it won't matter. If a person is going to be in violation, they're going to continue. 4.5, reducing 1 bath does not really implicate or actually condone the ability to use the property. People are going to have that be coming through only through active neighborhood monitoring. And this neighborhood, I'm very familiar, is a very active, very thriving, very inviting. So anybody who has a code enforcement issue, I'm sure will raise it up really soon. That said, I mean, I'm hearing from the applicant the assurances that it is going to be a family, and I'm completely aware of the cultural implication of bringing parents. It's something that we all strive to do, but being very thoughtful and considerate of this neighborhood. So any code violations related to this, if I can make a condition that it be brought back to Planning Commission, that way we have a ability to actually kind of gauge where our decision-making process has been leading to. Hopefully it ties. So I would like to question staff eventually. When homes like this, or I'm sure I'm getting a little ahead of myself in the ordinance, but if in the future the ordinance is approved and a home like this were to use for Airbnb operation, would that like trigger like a use permit kind of a process? Is that something, or would it be grandfathered that this is a 5-bedroom they can do?
Staff wouldn't propose any sort of grandfathering clause. It's a practice that neighboring communities have begun once they've adopted an ordinance, maybe had a sunset date in place, and then began implementing the regulations. This is relatively modern, right? Airbnb wasn't a platform that existed 10 years ago, and so we don't have codes that address this widespread activity.
Right.
And so what we have found other communities nearby us to do is not provide a conditional use permit process. This has been something that, as we've had workshops on this particular topic, we've seen that neighborhoods who've had problematic homes have come out because they are incredibly concerned about, you know, the lack of regulation around this. But we've also heard from property owners who said, hey, this is a great opportunity for me to live flexibly, and I want some opportunities to do that as well. So some of our neighboring communities have found a balance in regulating through their own ordinance. For instance, saying a certain number of days that would be unhosted would be acceptable. A certain number of days where hosted would be acceptable. A certain number of occupants, regardless, you know, based on the size of the house or regardless of the size of the house. Those are the kinds of permutations of regulations we see in our neighboring communities. But there are no communities that have a conditional use permit process for single-family homes to. It's more that the ordinance itself establishes the rules of engagement when people want to utilize their properties for short-term rentals. So the CUP wouldn't be something we would be proposing as part of the staff research.
That's good clarification. I was trying to make sure that the community actively engages if that were to be the case, but okay, thank you for benchmarking. But I would suggest the community actually actively involved with the ordinance revisions so that we address it at the community outreach. But at this point, for this application, I'm just going to make my stance that, you know, between 3.5 and 4.5 and a master bedroom door, there's not much of an impact to address really the community's concerns. So if the Architectural Review Committee had already given its consent to the actual house, which is the 5-bedroom and 3.5 bath, the appeal to add a bath, and based on staff that legally, you know, there's no way subjectively to say, you can do 3.5, you can do 4.5, you can do 2.5. I mean, where do you start drawing the line for these kind of single-family residents? Tomorrow it could be your own homes. I mean, how deep do we go into this? If it's a single-family residence, at the time of the application, we trust that that is the application code enforcement. We trust code enforcement to take on the rest of, even so much as a use permit. So with that, I'm just making my stance that I will sustain the appeal.
Commissioner Jane?
Were we to approve this, I would ask that we make a couple of changes, that the double door on the first floor that the applicant is asking for, either we eliminate that extra access or we change that to a door that cannot be locked or unlocked from the outside. And then there was a concern about the window in the closet. And I would recommend that we would remove that window in the closet upstairs. I don't see any need for that. And so those are just some thoughts for consideration.
Commissioner Biagini.
I'm not sure how this gets addressed, but I'm concerned about the balcony and the line sight, especially with the neighbors that we've heard from tonight. Can staff shed some light on what that looks like? That balcony, I mean, you know, somebody's out on that balcony and they can look right into the neighbor's yard.
Yeah, so
I'd be concerned.
let me try to do that with the site plan here first. And you can see this. So this is the outline of the new new house, and this is that balcony right there. The neighbor that was concerned, that property is right here, and if I go back, you'll see this aerial view. That's this property right there. 1 second. Goes back here. There is 15 feet, and it's at an angle too. 15 feet from this property line to the first floor wall, not the second floor. So that's additional 2-3 feet there. And the wall that is proposed, the 5-foot wall for the balcony on the south side, that's right here. So it goes out from the second floor straight out to the edge of that balcony. That, you know, without, you know, technical analysis, that's very difficult at this angle to view this property here. If you go back to the aerial, this property goes out like that. Yes, I do. I have
If we could see
elevation
the
at the
elevation.
end.
So there's a 5-foot wall, solid wall on one side that's facing the neighbor that
So
spoke.
this is the rear elevations, and this is the balcony here on the right. There's that wall there. If you look from the south, sorry, on the south side, this is this elevation is fronting that property to the south, and that is that 5-foot wall there. That's just a basic analysis.
So there's basically no casual view into the second yard.
I'm sorry?
No casual.
Casual view into the second yard from, you know, sitting in a deck chair or something on the balcony, you would stare at a solid wall.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah, that's
And I
what I'm-
assume also that the arborists, the city could work with the applicant to put in appropriate foliage and trees along that dividing property line?
Yes, and
Okay.
currently there are some landscape out there. Here, this tree here is actually on the subject site. And yeah,
And it'll stay, right?
yes, there's no proposal to remove it.
Right.
Commissioner Biagini?
My sense of this right now is I am not comfortable with the situation as it presents itself to us tonight. I think there is perhaps some, I mean, Suds, you mentioned some things that you thought could be conditional. I am just not comfortable that enough of the neighbors' concerns have been met. Not that they all have to be met, but I'm just not comfortable, sorry, Priya, with sustaining the appeal. I hope I made myself clear. It has more to do with the amount, I don't want to see a neighborhood down the road at odds with people looking to get code enforcement involved and a never-ending struggle in that neighborhood. I don't want to see that. I think there is more room for compromise here. So that's all.
Are there any other comments or concerns? Guess we can entertain a motion on the approval to uphold.
Well, I would make a motion to deny the appeal. So, motion to deny the appeal and uphold Architectural Review Committee's proposal of a 5-bedroom, 3.5-bath home with 3 external entrances.
Second.
Wait, was it 3 or 4? Because currently it's 4.
I don't believe
Currently
so.
it's 3.
It's 3 from
As
ARC.
approved by
She
Architecture
wants to
Committee.
add the 4th.
3.5.
Yeah.
3.5 right now. She wants to add one more.
3.5 to 4.5.
Is there a second? Okay. So motion by Commissioner Jane, seconded by Commissioner Biagini.
Just to clarify, the denial is an overruling the appeal. That's just semantics, but
The denial is,
should be overruling the appeal, not denying the appeal.
oh, overruling the
yes.
appeal. Okay.
Can it move forward now with 3 and 1?
You'll have to vote, we'll have to see the outcome of the vote first, and then we can advise you.
Motion is to.
It is confusing. It says, that says overrule appeal, and then this says approve. So it's very confusing.
My screen says the motion is to approve. Up there, it says it's to overrule.
I don't have the ability to change
Oh,
Yeah, if you'll
to
just look
overrule.
at the
The
screen.
opposite
at
of
the
staff
screens.
recommendation,
Yeah.
right?
The motion on the screen is the one that's active, and that's to overrule the appeal and uphold the architectural committee approval as presented at that time.
So a yes is
Yes.
to overrule the appeal.
Yes.
Yes.
So you can cast your vote. Okay, so that motion fails. So we would either need another motion if anyone believes they can change their mind. Yes, you could, because the motion failed, you have to create another motion.
Okay.
And people can, knowing that there is dissension or disagreement, I should say, among the commissioners, if you want to just have a consensus for an action. Otherwise, you can move it forward with no recommendation to the city council. Since there's no action. You either have to have a unanimous vote
So
or.
I think there was general confusion over the tense and the sense of which way the motion was going. If we could have a motion on the original to overturn, then we'll have a clear idea that it's either, yes, we want to overturn, or no, we don't want to overturn, and we might be able to proceed further. But to say that we want a motion to reverse the reversal, I don't think we're getting where we want to be.
So you want a motion to adopt staff's recommendation to sustain the appeal.
Right,
So
and
you
then
need to
if we
make that
have yeses
motion.
or nos on that, we'll
Yeah,
have a clear indication of which way we want to go.
You need to make that motion.
Can we add, just for ability to move this forward? So I heard the applicant being open to inspections subsequent to approval upon consent. Now, I do understand from a legal maintenance, if the land transfers, would it run with the land, or will it run as a condition of approval for the, would it run as a condition of approval to the property, or should it run as part of legal rights for the
It does run with the land.
It does run with the land. So if the applicant and if the commission is open to that, as a way of meets and bounds checks, that we have inspections after 2 years after occupancy, and we allow for, uh, I mean, I'm really trying to understand how one bath would make a difference. That's where I'm coming to. You know, in the project scope, in the large scheme of things, having a door open out and having an additional bathroom does not mitigate the concerns per se. That said, not allowing it is not doing any other justification to anything else as well. In, you know, if I'm a property owner, I have the ability to build, and legally I meet the city's guidelines, which is what is the needed requirement for almost every application coming through. There is a set expectation that they adhere to those guidelines. Now we are imposing, you may do this, I don't think will legally hold. That's my concern.
Okay, so I'll jump in and say that, yes, I actually am in favor of letting the project continue with those stipulations and allowing the person to build, because she is proposing a development that's within the guidelines.
Correct.
I don't think it's within our charter to start denying developments that actually are within the guidelines that
Right.
we are here to enforce. So
Yeah.
for me, I think with the conditions, I would be in favor of overriding the Architectural Review Committee only for the proposed version that has been presented here tonight, not for additions.
Right, so it's sustaining the field. So I'm just going to pose through the chair the question back to the applicant. Are you amicable to a condition of approval that would allow city to inspect the property 2 years upon occupancy? Okay.
I would like
can I
to
ask?
add
Go ahead.
2 more conditions to that, as I had already stated. One was that that door to the bedroom be not lockable or unlockable from the outside. So it's like a standard sliding door that's only lockable from the inside. And then to remove the window from the closet.
Is the applicant through the chair?
If someone wants to begin the motion and then take the amendments, then we could probably proceed. I'm asking staff, are those kind of amendments within our jurisdiction?
I have a question,
yes, they are.
Commissioner Chair Cruz, sorry. So for the scheduled inspections, it'd be helpful to have more details on what that means.
Okay.
If so,
I would want to make,
Friendly amendment to an amendment?
yeah, I would like to add the word unscheduled.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm uncomfortable. It gets a little more into private property rights. I don't think anybody legally, I
I'm
don't know.
also
I'm gonna look.
uncomfortable with that.
That's,
as well, yes.
that's more like,
I don't think that she'd have time to undo a bathroom.
yeah.
So
You have a good point
Yeah.
there.
yeah, I think the idea of the inspection would be to make sure that no unpermitted, unapproved additional development went on within the home after this.
Okay.
Can I clarify, then you're saying one time, 2 years after the project approval, that inspection condition would take place?
Correct.
So after that 2-year period, there's no other permission that needs to be granted unless it's a separate code enforcement action?
Correct.
By a neighbor or something, yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting or expecting
Yeah.
continuous policing action on her development. I think the neighbors would have that opportunity, but in 2 years, it's unlikely that that home would be modified beyond what it is.
Yeah. And through the chair, could I have the applicant address the condition to remove the window in the closet upstairs? Please come forward. Sorry, through the chair.
That window is just for aesthetic look from the outside. That's why we have, actually, that's a detriment to the capacity of the closet. We don't want to have windows in the closet. The only reason is for symmetry from the outside on the elevation, right? It's inconceivable to change that closet to a living space. So you're gonna make the house look kind of odd if you took that window away. That was the only reason it was put there.
Through the chair. Right next to the.
Also, because that closet place is on top of the dining room, so actually there's no any intention or just like a concerns from neighbor to add the bathroom, and you can see it's kind of hollow the background, right? You cannot add plumbing, and also I'm not have any intention to add that one since I already put all the consideration. Yeah, so just add on that. Thank you.
Okay, while you're, could you also address the other condition for the doors? I know it's very hard to monitor that because a lock can be.
Oh, for that part, I have no issue, as long as keep
Okay,
the.
so we'll make that a condition. Okay, I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, let's hear it.
Thank you. So I move that we sustain the appeal with additional condition of approval to add inspection 2 years upon receiving a certificate of occupancy
Building final.
and building and fire inspections being cleared, and to allow for the door in the master bedroom on the first level be a non-lockable door from outside.
Non-keyed.
Is that
And-
paraphrased? Whatever that right word is.
Be a sliding glass door, right?
Be a sliding glass.
I don't think you need to generate the
Yeah.
architectural style. You can simply say a non-keyed door, which
Non-key
means
door or
lockable from the
non-operable from
inside, but not unlockable from the outside.
That would
Yeah.
be fine.
Okay, that's my motion.
And the closet window was not part of that? Okay,
I don't
okay.
see that
Thank-
as a
okay.
need at this time.
Can you repeat that? Oh, no, I'm getting.
Okay, you get.
We'll get there.
Okay, I move that we sustain the appeal, which means it allows the 4.5 bath and the door. However, it adds a condition of approval that there will be an inspection by the city 2 years upon certificate of occupancy and fire and inspections, and that the door to the master bedroom be not operable from outside, not lockable and operable from outside, sliding, whatever be the choice, but it can be locked from outside.
Is there a second?
Second.
I guess I can second it.
Yes.
Oh, it still fails. We don't have a quorum.
Okay, so that motion also fails.
We have no choice but to move it to city council.
I move that we punt to the city council.
Unfortunately, yes. Second already.
Seconded by Commissioner Biagini.
That would be moved to city council with no recommendation, correct?
For that, so hold on a minute.
Just for clarification, maybe from staff, this doesn't automatically go to city council? The action has to be appealed.
Yes,
To the city council.
essentially, the architectural committee approval would stand unless that action is appealed to city council.
Right.
So
Planning Commission doesn't need to take any action right now. The motion failed, and there's no other motion on the floor. So the underlying AC approval is still in effect, and so Planning Commission's non-action is appealable by the applicant.
So they would have to appeal again to
Yes.
city council?
Yes.
since
Okay.
there was no decision at planning commission.
Oh.
I mean, you could also move it forward with no recommendation, which has happened. It's just a quicker way to get to the appeal process. It's up to the commission.
Move it?
Someone want to move to push this forward without a recommendation?
Right,
Yeah, so I move that we
you seconded.
move this item to city council agenda with no recommendation from planning commission.
Second.
Okay.
And that motion passes.
So as we move on, I think we can switch back and have our other commissioners rejoin us.
We missed you.
Those who are here for that part of the process are free to go if they wish.
Do any of the commissioners need a
Chair.
break?
Could I take a break, please?
Yes, 5-minute break.
Okay, 5-minute break.
We'll be back.
So we're gonna pause it. I'm always afraid I'm gonna stop it. Pause it. I'm going to make a note here. What happens is, I don't have these notes here and you say. But it's this information right here. Oh, I can't even.
Do you have the script? We are going to now move back to the consent calendar to go on to item 1B, which is the recommendation of an amendment to the zoning code for the Santa Clara City Code on architectural review and clarifying the changes. It's been continued from the May 22nd, 2019 meeting.
So Chair, did we ever get approval on the minutes?
Yes, we did.
No.
All right, so we are now going to go into the consent calendar. So is there anybody for the public hearing section on this? Seeing none? Okay. Oh, sorry, no, it's staff presentation first. My apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're returning with the revised ordinance from the May 22nd meeting that incorporates the Planning Commission's recommendations, including keeping the Architectural Committee as the initial decision-making body, changing the composition of the AC to 3 planning commissioners, adding the number of bathrooms in a single-family home as a review criteria, and adding historic properties as being subject to a public hearing by the Architectural Committee. So those were the major substantive changes, and I'm available for questions.
Okay. Commissioner Cherukuru?
Okay, so let me voice my concern up front. 3 planning commissioners at Architectural Review Committee led to what this is right now, the previous item. I am seriously concerned. I know the appeal goes de novo to City Council, but I am concerned about basically the entire body of one approving body becoming the subset of another approving body. You know, by its inherent nature, it's only planning commissioners with no variability, no other expertise or even a different perspective. It just, you know, it's contradictory to me. I mean, they should have an ability to say, this is Architectural Review Committee's recommendations, and then Planning Commission. So all 3 planning commissioners, I'm not comfortable with that. I'll just say.
Okay. We have Commissioner Jane.
Sorry. Actually, there's a list of conditions whereby an item would go to the architectural review, and I had concerns about the size of the single-family homes. It said a 1-story structure resulting in 6 or more bedrooms and 5 or more bathrooms. And it seems to me that that bar is too high, and that it should include, and as we saw today, sort of the relative number of bedrooms and bathrooms. So I think, you know, a structure with 5 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms, master bathrooms, would not go to ARC under this rule. And so I think we need to add some more, lower the bar for what goes to ARC, because as we saw today, there have been a number of single-family homes that did get approved either through ARC or through another process that were really not acceptable to me. You know, 6-bedroom homes that got approved with 6 bathrooms, I believe. And I think that I would prefer that this be written as a 1-story structure resulting in 5 or more bedrooms with more than one or more bathrooms per bedroom, which would prevent 5 and 5.
that it go to architectural review
Yeah,
committee.
yeah. So I'm saying 5 or more bedrooms with the number of bathrooms equal to or greater than the number of bedrooms.
Just for clarification, Commissioner Jane, are you referring, because there was a distinction between two-story and single-story structures?
This is for one
So-
story.
This is for one story.
Yeah.
So just for clarification again, would your proposal being at 5 or more bedrooms with 5 or more bathrooms
No, I'm not
mean-
saying,
Okay.
where the bathrooms equal the number of bedrooms. So if it were 7, then it would not be 7 and 5. It would be 7 and 7 or more.
But it would automatically come to ARC because it's above 5.
Yeah.
So the only clarification, like Rena was saying, is
I see what you're saying.
yeah, if it is less, for instance, your clause, if it was a 4-bedroom and has 4 bath, now it would come to ARC. That's
No,
what.
I'm saying 5 is the bar.
Okay, so the bedroom is the bar, 5-bedroom, you're right, with 5 bath and above.
Yeah.
So for clarification, 5 bedrooms and 4 baths
Would
would
not.
not go to ARC. 6 bedrooms and 4 baths would go to ARC because the number of bedrooms was over 5.
Yes.
I think we want to phrase this exactly, right? I mean, right, so what I'm hearing is that the architectural review is triggered if the bedroom count exceeds 5.
Is 5 or more.
Exceeds
And
5 or
the
more, is
number
5 or
of
more.
bathrooms.
Architectural review is also triggered if the bathroom count, there's more than 1 bathroom per bedroom?
Well, so I don't want to trigger it if it's 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. I don't want it to be triggered in that case.
4.5 bath.
So.
Okay, so what's the minimum threshold?
I mean, if I were to do it mathematically, I would say it would be n and n minus 1.
Say it again?
N and n minus 1, where n is 5 or greater.
Little algebra. So in other words, 5 or more bedrooms with 5 bathrooms, or 6 or more bedrooms,
Well, no.
It is already
regardless
over
of
5.
number of bathrooms,
It's already above 5.
and 5 bathrooms.
I mean,
think we're
we
just
could
saying
draw a
You got the
table.
first part.
Right.
I think we're just saying 5 bedrooms and 5 or more bathrooms.
Okay, so that's the trigger,
Yes.
whether it's single floor, or 1 or 2 floors.
Yes.
I think so, yeah. That's fine.
Okay, so,
If we don't want to do math.
Can we do the speaker
so if
order?
it's 4 bedrooms, 5 bath,
Okay, so
That would not go.
that would not trigger. If it's 4 bedroom, 7 bath, it's still not gonna trigger.
No.
It's tied to the bedrooms.
I'm just
It's tied to the
asking
bed, it's
to
tied to the
clarify.
bedrooms
I mean,
based on
fundamentally, what
Commissioner
we're trying to
Jane's
regulate is the
recommendation.
number of cars.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So 5.
all right, so
So 5 and 4 bathroom, 5 bedroom, 4 bath, it's not gonna
That
trigger.
would not go.
Yeah,
So-
5 bedroom and 4 bath would not trigger.
What about 6 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms?
That
No.
would
It's
trigger
above
because
5
it's
would
more
go,
than 5
because
bedrooms.
it
So
exceeds
automatically
5
with 5
bedrooms.
bedrooms?
And
I-
above.
I'm just trying to think how we're going
Well,
to draft the ordinance. I just,
exactly, that's why
I'd
I'm
like more
asking the
clar-
questions
yes.
too. I mean, it has to be worded exactly what we want, right?
right.
No, I mean, is it 5? If you say 5 bedrooms and 5 bathroom, then, let's see now.
It's more than 5 bedrooms and more than 5 bathrooms.
5 plus, so 5 is also included.
Okay, so 5 bedroom and 4 bath is
And-
not
Will
gonna
not.
trigger.
Correct.
Yeah.
Bathrooms, right?
5 bedrooms
I'm
and 4
saying, I
baths.
still
think
think
it's
it's 5
5
bedrooms.
or more bedrooms with 5 bathrooms, or 6 bedrooms with any permutation of bathrooms.
that it was.
No, that's not what he said.
So if there
Is
were
that the
6
correct wording?
bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, you would not want it to go to AC. Because I think,
I pretty much
I
would
was
not,
saying
because
you
I
would.
assume that that would be a family living there and they would share bathrooms. The problem is, my problem is that when you have Airbnb people there, they don't want to share bathrooms. I mean, they're very reluctant to
Bathroom
share
to
bathrooms.
bedroom ratio.
Yeah.
So you've, I think Commissioner Jane said, okay, let me just try to get this straight.
Yeah.
Five bedrooms plus 5 or more bathrooms. That's what Commissioner Jane, I think, is asking for. If you want a different motion, then we'd have to consider something else.
Okay, so five
Five
bathrooms,
and,
5
and
bedrooms. Okay.
5 or more bathrooms.
Then what happens if it's 6 bedrooms? How is that covered? That's not covered by your language.
Before we go in
If
another
it's 6
circle,
bedrooms
can
and
I
5
get a word
bathrooms,
in?
it would be subject to architectural review.
Let's go to, okay, Commissioner
It's
Sala.
both.
So please hear me out. It's actually something I've been involved in is from architecture and other aspects. What we're looking for, I think, for triggering an architectural review is anything growing beyond a normal family size amount of rooms. The idea of 5 or more bedrooms is excellent. That's a good starting point. But you need to also trigger on the bathroom count, like 4 or more bathrooms, because it is in the habit of some architects and developers to treat a family room, a guest room,
Great room.
a great room, exactly, other living spaces as spaces that they can place beds in.
Yes.
Okay, so when you immediately start to see the bathroom count exceeding the bedroom count in any way, that's a red flag. That means that they're actually theoretically looking at the other spaces in their home as spaces that they want people to have a bathroom access to. So a simpler view may be just to say 5 or more bathrooms. I'm sorry, I said it wrong myself. 5 or more bedrooms, 4 or more bathrooms, and then to stop there. You really don't need great levels of caveats and if then else's, and in a coder sense, you've captured the logic. You don't have to go deep.
Okay,
Except,
so
can I just ask you something? That means if somebody had 3 bedrooms and 4 or more bathrooms, they would still go to architectural review.
Yes,
Okay, so.
it's just 2
Yes.
numbers.
Because
5 for
you're
the
saying,
bedrooms, 4
you're
for the
saying
bathrooms.
either or as opposed to both.
Yes.
Okay,
can I propose a wording?
pretty restrictive.
Commissioner,
So, under C1,
Yeah.
new or expanded single-family homes resulting in A, 5 or more bedrooms, semicolon, or B, 4 or more bathrooms, period. Would that do?
That seems like a
So,
perfectly
yeah.
reasonable limitation.
Okay, all right. I think that captures what we're
That's different
saying.
than what Commissioner Jane said, but yes, that's what's in the current
But that's the
ordinance.
exact wording we want.
So no
That-
differentiation
that-
between one.
It's fine. That's fine with me.
That captures,
Right.
exactly, that's what Commissioner Jane
hold on,
was
pause for a
proposing.
sec. Okay, just so I could catch up. All right, so what Commissioner Salam said was 5 bedrooms with 4 baths, correct?
I
Or,
said separately consider each.
Right, that's
5
what,
or more bedrooms, 4 or more bathrooms.
right, hence.
If they have
hence-
50 bedrooms, but they still want that 5th bathroom, that's a red flag. Or if they want 7 bathrooms for 3 bedrooms, that's a red flag.
Okay.
It's a pretty simple, straightforward metric
okay,
that a home is going to start growing. You don't want to have out of balance
okay.
rooms.
So I think that what I said captures what Commissioner Solano says.
Okay,
So would you like me to repeat that?
yes, please,
Okay.
so I have,
All right, so C, the architectural committee shall conduct a public hearing after providing notice pursuant to blah, 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 for the following types of projects. 1, new or expanded single-family homes resulting in A, 5 bedrooms, semicolon, or B, 4 or more bathrooms, period.
5 or more bedrooms.
No, the first 5 bedrooms, semicolon, or 4 bathrooms. I guess we don't need to say 4.
5 or more, he wanted you to add.
Resulting in, oh yeah, 5 or more bedrooms, semicolon, or B, 4 or more bathrooms.
So this is intended to apply to both one-story and
Okay.
two-story structures?
Yes.
My question.
Great.
Right, because I left out the verbiage that says a 2-story structure, blah, blah, or 1-story structure, right? That's what
So you
you're
want to
saying.
allow that combination on 1 or 2-story without, I mean, yeah, that's the,
So,
exactly.
so let me just understand. I'm building a 5-bedroom, 4-bath, I will go to our ARC?
Correct.
Okay. Whether it's 1-story or 2-story.
Yeah,
Either or, okay.
Okay.
doesn't matter.
But if you're below that for a 2-story, you want to be able to make that an administrative approval?
Yeah.
If it's
I think that would
2-story.
be perfectly reasonable, as long as it doesn't exceed lot size
Yeah.
boundaries.
Okay.
Yeah, and meets the architectural guideline?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that
Commission-
will eliminate so
Unless you're in-
many of our appeals.
Let's,
Unless you're in-
Commissioner
Sorry,
Biagini
just
has
being
something.
very, very clear here, that wording, if it's a 6-bedroom house with 1 bathroom, it goes to architectural committee.
Correct.
Good.
All right, Commissioner Biagini?
My question got answered. I wanted to make sure we were no longer going to differentiate between a 1-story and a 2-story under your verbiage, right?
That's what Commissioner Jane's saying. Yeah.
Can I offer that? I don't think the stories matter. I think 1, 2, 3,
Yeah,
4,
I agree.
if they built straight vertically, it shouldn't affect.
17, no.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a height limitation, but.
So my next question was, do we want to put any conditions on exterior entrances?
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
And then, and then, and then I had another, there was, it's not in this ordinance here, but in the packet, there is a whole area for design consultation where what triggers getting an architect involved. And so I had some comments on that, but let's first discuss the exterior doors.
Can I just add something, just for some food for thought? Staff did some analysis on, the frequency of the size of houses that come to AC, and a 4-bedroom, 4-bath house is a fairly common request that, I don't have the statistic in front of you because I didn't know I'd have to present this particular permutation, but I just wanted you to know that particular permutation would fit in the going to AC process, but it is something that is a fairly, people, when they are adding to their home, it's a pretty common size this day and age for individuals to request a 4-bedroom, 4-bath house. So my only caution to you is, you can put your recommendation together, but, and I don't have the specific data on that, but I do know that, I should inform you of just the frequency in which people ask for that. And we have heard feedback through the zoning code update process, through surveys or whatnot, that people are trying to balance, control and flexibility of their own property versus trying to also reduce the process. That's like a balancing act, obviously, but just something for you to consider.
If we increase it like a half to 4.5 pounds, would that make much of a difference?
Unfortunately, I don't have that data. I just felt like commenting on the 4-bath, 4-bedroom house.
I would actually be okay with greater than 4-bath, rather than just saying 4 or more, but definitely 5 or more for bedrooms, but 4 greater than.
That's why I like the N-1.
Yeah, that's, I think
Yeah,
where
let's-
was going with,
Let's make it 5.
I think so. I'm in support of 5 and 5.
So 5 and 5.
Correct,
There you go.
5 or more bedrooms or 5 or more bathrooms.
correct.
Okay, let me rephrase them.
Simplifies.
I like
So I
it.
guess what I'm hearing is, C1, new or expanded single-family homes resulting in, colon, A, 5 or more bedrooms, semicolon, or 5 or more bathrooms?
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, period. All right.
That reasonable?
So essentially then, well, the situation we just had tonight from prior situations that Commissioner Kelly and I had on Sycamore, essentially that would have never came before us then.
5.5 would have come.
5.5 would have come, but she was, so basically, in the beginning, she wanted, I think it was 4.5 baths.
No,
No,
she
she
Five
wanted
bed-
5.5.
5.5.
That's right, 5.5,
bath.
sorry, okay,
But that's because we have nothing codified.
okay.
Just keep that in mind. If we had that codified, probably most people would rather have an administrative process and we'll limit it to 5.
Okay.
And I'm just saying, if this ordinance, say, was adopted, she could wait out the process and wait till that gets adopted, and then she could build her project.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, of
an
course.
FYI.
Yeah.
Let's do the math. I think she wanted 5 bedrooms, right?
Yes.
That would have triggered it.
Yeah, it
5 or more bedrooms.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But we're also going to have,
She's already.
She's already in the zone.
So that brings up a question. So let's say that
Conception, yeah.
I want to convert my house to 5 bedrooms. And so it triggers the architectural review. Can the review body tell me you can only have 3 bathrooms? Is that conceivable? Because the review is triggered.
If you had how many bedrooms?
So let's say I want to do 5 bedrooms.
Right.
It triggers the review. And so now it's subject to what the architectural review committee imposes. So if the architectural review committee says, okay, you can have 5 bedrooms, but you can only have 3 bathrooms.
Yes, they could tell you to do
That could happen.
Yeah,
Okay,
if that's in the
understood.
ordinance.
Thank you.
Okay.
So the other
Yeah, the 5
thing,
bedrooms would be discretionary.
Right.
the other thing that I would like to trigger would be if there was an exterior door to a bedroom that had a key, then that should trigger ARC.
more than one. Because right now, you're allowed to have an accessory unit, so really what we're talking about.
We're not talking about accessory units. This is within the house.
If we're talking about within the house, other than like a kitchen or I guess a garage, which is common, a front door, when we're talking about a bedroom entry,
Yeah, I think you're talking about, right,
Then
exterior access to bedrooms.
right now, we're allowed to have an accessory unit. So if they do not have an accessory unit, we should allow one. If they have an accessory unit, then that should trigger if they have an exterior lock or if they have more than one bedroom with an exterior lock.
We don't have to get into that because the ADUs basically require a separate exterior access under our code.
An
So
ADU is a
we're-
different unit. It's got its own
Yeah.
kitchen, it's got its own
You could say
access.
exterior access to bedrooms will require interior accessible locks only.
Commissioner Chirkuru?
So let me pose the question then. So if there is an ADU within the unit that has 1 bedrooms, and then there is a 4-bedroom main dwelling, would that trigger ARC?
No.
ADU is.
The ADU is granted by right,
So
and it's
under
not
that
subject to
circumstance-
discretionary review. Mhm.
So under that circumstance, if we were to limit any exterior access from bedrooms, from
Okay.
bedrooms,
For the main house,
from,
not
for
the,
the main house, how would we do it? I mean, you already have 2 bedrooms in the ADU that could potentially be lockable from outside.
But that's a separate unit. That's got its own kitchen. That's like a duplex almost.
And then combined with the main house, which has 4 bedrooms with potentially access from the outside.
But none of those bedrooms should have key access from the outside.
That's what I'm trying to come to. So if you're limiting that, we need to, so here is my realistic and even from the past project. Locks are changeable. They do not require a building permit. Doors are changeable. You do not require a building permit. Tomorrow, after a notice to proceed, it's not subject. At what point do you start making that, it's like changing a light fixture today.
But when it's being inspected, most sliding doors do not have a key lock.
Right.
So we could just put a requirement in that it be a sliding door or French door that does not have an exterior key lock. Now, they could change it, but, you know, when inspectors inspecting, if they see it, you know, it's going to be a problem for them.
Right, again, it's not building code.
Yeah, and
It
it's,
doesn't trigger planning or a condition of approval review. It's primarily looking at life safety.
Mhm. And as you're mentioning, if we just have a traditional man door, a single door with yeah, a knobs, basically keyed access, usually you can replace those.
You can replace a doggy door, you could replace, you know, they're all operable, both inward, outward.
The only time you can really, yeah, restrict the access would be on a sliding door. I mean, it wouldn't make any sense. Because those typically are locked from the interior.
From my perspective, it's just triggering an ARC. The owner is then made clearly aware that this is not an acceptable use, and that if they violate it, you know, if one of the neighbors complain, then they will have code enforcement on their back.
Which is what it is today.
Yeah, it's just, but it's just a way to make them clearly aware. She was not aware that she couldn't store stuff in her garage, even though that's a condition of approval.
Yeah.
I don't think that was.
I mean, anyway, the point being, an ordinance should be legally defensible. You know, it should not take away private property rights. Where it goes into the ministerial turf and where it comes to discretionary, ministerial is anything that the building code can allow and enforce. The discretionary, where we go into the building code's requirements, gets a little awry there. That's my concern. So I'm just stating that, you know, it becomes very hard to enforce something that is subject to just a building permit or even is allowed by right.
Well, the thing is, it's just going to come to ARC, and they're going to basically approve or deny at ARC, right?
So instead of key door or not, can we just say number of
bedrooms
externally accessible
bedrooms?
Yeah, bedrooms or, yeah.
I think family rooms, that kind of thing, I don't think anyone wants to restrict. If it's a great room or something like that,
Yeah.
people want patio access, but if could be exterior access to bedrooms shall be limited.
Yeah, to one, normally.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you want to limit it to one. It's again.
One bedroom.
Somebody wants to put French doors all on the back side of their property or side. I mean, it's.
Well, we're not changing the building code here, right? We're just saying what triggers coming to ARC.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And so she wanted the external access to that bedroom. That would have come to ARC, and then there would be a discussion about it.
I don't think her request was external access. It was just a
Additional
door. It was just a door to the exterior. It wasn't meant to be as an entrance.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question out of curiosity? So let's say that somebody builds an accessory unit that's part of the main structure. Can that person open the door between the accessory unit and the main house?
Yes, they can.
Does it require a permit?
Oh, yes, it would require a permit.
Would they likely to get permit if they ask for permit?
Well, we allow it. I mean, it's permitted under state law. I mean, we cannot, there's a new bill that going forward says you can't restrict that interior access.
Between the accessory unit and
because you're cutting into the framing, it does require a permit.
A permit, but they'll get it if they if they ask for permit, they'll get it, right? Okay.
We just require an exterior access, a separate entrance point from the exterior.
That's all there. Okay.
That's in the ordinance.
Got it, thank you. So I mean, that lady who was here, she could have just built an accessory unit and she would have circumvented this whole thing.
Oh, okay, I think we're giving away.
She could have.
Okay. Anybody else? Let's move on to the exterior entrances then. Or are we still debating the 5-5?
What I'm proposing is that exterior access to bedrooms would trigger an ARC review.
irrespective of the number.
Correct.
So more than one exterior access to a bedroom would require AC review.
That'll be practically every household that comes to recent permits.
That could be a lot.
It is a lot because almost every single master bedroom home would want outdoor patio access.
So more than,
Well,
so I'd say two or more then, because if you would have to consider
Say two or more.
two or more, I mean, you have, I mean, I know personally, people have those French doors on their master bedroom.
Yeah.
And they usually have they have a separate
Patio,
entrance, and they
yeah.
usually have another key entrance, and that usually is like someone else's bedroom if they rent it out to somebody else. But I don't think we should be throwing it back in there after just one. I mean, maybe two, three. That's where, because to be honest, the lady that was here tonight when she was on architectural review the first time, and she wanted all those entrances, that was a red flag to me. So basically, with one entrance, not a red flag. Two entrances. Nah, but two or more, you start really getting questioned,
Yeah.
you know?
And we're talking two or more bedroom entrances.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
want to make
yeah,
sure,
bedroom
make sure we
entrances.
clarify
Talking
it's
the
not
dining,
Dining
the
room,
kitchen,
separate
the
entrance.
common,
garage,
common
the main
space
entry.
access.
Like Commissioner Salim said earlier, he has a bunch of entrances on his house.
Yeah.
Four.
He has four, but he's not a Airbnb, he's not any of
Yeah.
these, dormitory things. He's just a house.
Yeah, most people forget that the entrance to the garage counts.
Yes.
So if you have an entrance into your garage from outside, which is quite common,
So it's to the
there's
bedrooms.
one. Your front door, there's one. Your family room or living room, French doors to the backyard, there's three.
Yep.
So it's not uncommon, and it's certainly reasonable to have like a family room separate from living room that has its own exit. So,
And
yeah,
And
you get
it's
to
common
four very
for
quickly.
bedrooms to have exit. Now, I do agree if it's like, the kid's bedroom and they want to lock it from outside. I have a teen, I have a college-going kid, and they want to lock it from outside. I don't know where we start parsing family to you're going to convert it.
Well, maybe then we should say, because basically brings back my own memory of when I was a kid. I used to come in through the side door in the garage with a key. So I think, okay, that's an. So
Yeah.
I'd
We're
say
not, we're
three or
not
more.
restricting the number of accesses. We're only restricting the number of accesses to bedrooms.
Yeah,
And those are
so-
rooms with closets.
Yeah, that's right. Okay,
Yeah.
so
I think it's a
Bedrooms,
reasonable
yeah.
red flag that when you get beyond four
Oh, yeah,
at
easy.
all on the first floor,
Absolutely.
where are you going?
Absolutely.
okay, so then
We just need to agree upon a number.
I would say more than one exterior access to a bedroom would trigger ARs.
okay, I would say that more than
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You mean somebody
Well-
has two doors into the one bedroom?
no
That's
No.
what it sounds
individual
like.
bedrooms. Per bedroom.
Yeah.
Because
Per
some
bedroom.
people pose,
I'm gonna.
So if you have 3 bedrooms on the bottom floor
Yeah.
of your house or on, and you have 2 exterior accesses, that would trigger ARC.
Irrespective of whether it's a bedroom.
No, I'm only counting bedroom accesses, yeah, yeah.
Well, in addition to garage, front
Yes,
and
of
back?
course, yeah, yeah. I'm only counting accesses to bedrooms.
Exterior,
Direct,
operable.
direct access to bedrooms from the outside.
You could have like
Not to throw a monkey wrench, but some of the stuff I've seen, I was on the architectural review committee too. Like the house that we just saw, right? There were 2 bedrooms to the side. Some people would put like a little hallway in between the 2 bedrooms and then put an external door to that little hallway.
Yep.
And then close off that hallway after the house is built.
Yeah, of
Then you
course.
have a,
I
so it's
understand.
really hard to control that.
We can't cover every case, we can cover simple cases, and this is one simple case that would trigger ARC.
So can you phrase it exactly the way you want to
Okay.
see it so that, you
Okay.
know?
ARC would be triggered if more than 2 bedrooms had direct access to the outside.
I'm amicable to that.
okay. I like that.
I mean,
How are we doing
direct to,
this? Are we
directly to the
doing
outside, right?
motions,
That's
or
what I
how
said,
are we
direct
doing this?
access
Is
to
there
the
a motion
outside.
on the floor?
With one complete recommendation.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
basically we're picking this apart piece by piece to decide what we really want to do.
Yeah.
Well, I have some questions myself, and I waited until everyone else had some questions. Concerns I have gotten about this is for specific plans, like we had the last one, which was in front of ARC, which was, I think is Kelly de Mundo. Don't quote me on that. I think Commissioner Salam, we did that one. And the concern I'm getting from some of the residents is this going to still be a public hearing for those type of items, for specific plans, for large items? It's still,
Oh, yeah.
okay, cool, cool. I just want to confirm that. And the other question I had was, it's for sure, based on what I was reading on this, it's going to city council after this, no matter what. It doesn't come back to planning commission. So if someone appealed after this, right?
Correct, single appeal to city council.
City council, okay, good.
This is a recommendation. This is not appealable. Whatever we do today.
Oh, no, I'm talking about in,
The ARC
in general, in
recommendation.
the process,
Yes,
yeah, in the process. So
ARC appeals directly
it'd
to city
be
council.
automatically city council.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
De
Okay.
facto.
Okay, that's basically the questions I had so far.
Okay, so I have well, I don't have a motion yet. I have more questions. So I guess we're not even asking permission from the chair to speak, but so can you explain again why the way it's written will eliminate the double appeals? I just want to make sure how the appeal process works.
So as the Planning Commission had requested, the resolution is so that or the ordinance is such so that any action that the Architecture Committee takes would be appealed directly to the City Council. So the council would be the final deciding body. So in the, the current situation, obviously the AC is appealable to the Planning Commission, which is then appealable to the City Council, which is 2 appeal opportunities. So the double appeal has been problematic. And the proposal by the Planning Commission to make all items appealable to the City Council would eliminate the double appeal opportunity.
And so let's say that I have something I try to do something that my neighbors don't like. And it gets it's approved by the Architectural Committee. My neighbor to the right decides to appeal, right? And then my approval is upheld. My left-hand side neighbor cannot appeal again, right? Is that correct? Only one appeal.
That's
for
correct.
one project.
It's one appeal to city council.
Okay, so if I survive the city council, then that's it, I'm gonna get the permit. That's how it's gonna be. Okay, understood, thank you. Right.
Correct.
Okay, got it, understand now, thank you.
Which would have helped the commission quorum tonight.
Yes. Well, and I kind of like how city council gets the final say, and I think city council wants to have that kind of power, so I agree that they should have that kind of power to make that final decision.
Okay, so I have one more question, which is
Sure, absolutely.
architectural review hearing. It says in the staff report that to address due process concerns consistent with council direction and standard practices, the proposed amendments would establish a new administrative hearing conducted by staff in place of the current architectural committee hearing. The new hearing would be titled the Development Review Hearing. So is this going to be the this new development review hearing is going to be run by the staff with 3 planning commissioner attending?
That was the staff recommendation that we presented to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission provided a different way of dealing with due process conflicts, which was to retain the participation of the planning commissioners on the AC with
okay.
a direct
I-
appeal.
I'm
So the planning commission's recommendation is not the staff recommendation. It's a different way to address the due process conflicts.
Okay, sorry, so this is from May. So what's being proposed in the ordinance today is architectural review committee hearing with 3 planning commissioners present. Okay, I was confused, thank you.
So I have a question, unless anyone else has a question. If we can, let's start chiming in on here, so I think the cameras can also know who is talking to. My question about the 3 planning commissioners, and I know the 3 is, so then we have, if there's a split, we would at least have somewhat of a majority with 2 votes. Seeing that, that 3, would it come, so if we have to pick a third person, a third member, what if, for example, Commissioner Chiriku isn't available, Commissioner Kelly isn't available, or Commissioner Jane's not available, and then it would only end up being, let's say, myself, and we had the discussion about it's not smart to have somebody from here to be on there, like my role. Is that still going to be the same situation if it got to that point? Like, if they didn't want to do it, would it create complications?
There's nothing prohibiting you from doing that. We just thought it was advisable given the chair role.
yeah,
Usually
okay,
there's
okay.
a separation of those duties. But if we needed somebody to fill in, there'd be nothing
Okay,
prohibiting
because
that.
I remember Commissioner Biagini will be gone the 21st.
Yes, and we did ask you
Yeah,
to step
and
in,
so I said, yeah, and that's why I was a little
Yes.
concerned going,
No.
we're okay? Okay, cool.
Yeah, there's nothing procedurally that prohibits that.
And previously, there were 3 participants, as you know, until recently in the AC, 2 of whom were planning commissioners.
One was
for-
city council, yeah.
Right, but quorum was 2 participants.
yes.
So you could have 3 planning commissioners with 2 required participants.
That sounds
For
great
quorum.
to me. I mean,
Well, and you have 3 planning commissioners on the committee, but if one were absent, you still have quorum.
yeah.
The 2 just have to vote.
And
the
they,
same.
and if nobody there likes their odds of,
Yeah.
is it gonna split or am I gonna get 2-0, just appeal
They can
it.
wait.
Or they can wait, but you continue.
I'm going to reiterate my concern, which is how I started. If we are not, because remember, we are voluntary. As voluntary as that is, that would take up 4, almost every single month, Wednesdays.
Pretty much, well, yeah, I would say Commissioner Salam, I mean, we basically were going every Wednesday, except for certain times of the month. I think it would have been 1 architectural review meeting during the month, and then we would have even maybe 1 planning commission meeting during the month. Then we'd have 2 planning commission meetings, and then maybe even, go ahead, Commissioner Salam.
Yeah, with cancellations and gap months, it hasn't been egregious. It's been pretty reasonable.
But the point I was trying to make is there are usually the 2 of you who are very willing and able to, and you're going to be doing that if it's not almost cyclical or required that it's alternate. Because if it's, that's my concern, right? One, even if I'm mandated to do this, which I don't know if it's possible, to have attendance in all the meetings, of course, cancellations being one, but required attendance in all meetings is going to be a challenge, which means only the regular people are going to be there in almost every architectural review committee. That's my concern. I mean, at this point, it's just,
Maybe we can change the way we assign this.
that's
you
what
know,
I'm coming to.
Maybe some
That's
people.
what I start.
People
Commissioner-
sign up to show up
So
every other month.
Let's
or-
start chiming in on here, okay, you guys? Because, so, I'm gonna go with Commissioner Salam.
Yeah, it's really voluntary. I don't think anybody would try and mandate participation if we have too few people. I think having a backup plan in place might be really helpful to have a staff alternate or someone else that could sit in and act as a fill-in if we lost 2 out of the 3 people for a particular meeting. But I didn't see this being an assigned or mandatory process. They don't pay me enough.
Commissioner Biagini.
I think this might be a good time to talk about the difficulties, for example, that I know you all heard me last time when I said, man, I've got some stuff coming up. So two things created a problem for me this coming Wednesday. One of them was an item that's on the agenda. I share a back fence with that neighbor. I'd have to recuse myself from that. But also, I'm chair of the Historic Home Tour. Our meetings are the third Wednesday of every month, and the tour is December 7th and 8th. I'm going to be gone from September 7th to the 22nd, which you all know in terms of the Planning Commission. That would affect the September meeting. So that puts August meeting at odds on the 21st, puts, I think, September, there's probably a ARC meeting I'm going to miss there. And then we're also talking November, October and November for one of the Architectural Review Committee meetings until such time as we have the home tour. So that's sort of a nightmare. Means I can make one meeting a month, but not two.
So based on what Commissioner Biagini was saying, if we make a decision on this tonight,
Mm-hmm.
this is going to go to city council, correct? And they're going to make a decision on it? So this is going to be at least a little more long. I mean, we're talking maybe another month or two until, well, when is this actually going to take effect? Once this all, say it passes here in city council, when would it take effect?
If something got brought forward tonight, the earliest we could take something would probably be, I don't think we can make September 24th. It would probably be October 8th, probably. But it probably at the earliest September 24th, and then so in the late fall time period. I do want to echo, though, I'm hearing a lot of concerns about the time commitment of all of this. And the Planning Commission itself is a
It's a time
big
commitment.
commitment of
It is.
time. You all are here, commissioners, till sometimes 11 midnight,
Exactly.
right? So I think, I don't want to push the staff recommendation because we had our day, in front of you. But a part of why we had suggested a staff hearing was to alleviate the amount of time and commitment your position as a planning commissioner involves, because it now involves you participating on two committees and two commissions. And so I know you're dealing with this, but I just want you to be aware of that's why a big role for why staff is wanting to alleviate some of that burden from you as individuals.
Okay. So basically, if
You're talking
coming
about
around,
every Wednesday of the month.
yeah, so basically in Commissioner Biagini's situation, we wouldn't get a third person if that was the case until at least in the fall.
If that recommendation is adopted.
And
So
that was
just to
recommendation was
convey
adopted.
what Reno was
So-
saying is we're still going to move forward with the staff recommendation for that administrative hearing, but your recommendation will go forward to the city council as well.
Okay.
So if that happens, it takes 30 days for the ordinance to take effect, so we're probably looking at the beginning of the year.
Okay, so, and then we already have alternate.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
have
then it's just
alternates
a matter
now.
of finding the alternates for the third Wednesday of the month until December's third Wednesday. I can be there, although I don't know, is that like Christmas
Probably
Day?
figure that out.
I can be there the third Wednesday.
Anyway, through the chair, I do want to ask a quick question to
Yes.
staff. How are other jurisdictions doing this?
They are largely administrative hearings.
It's in the packet.
I know, but, so it's mostly staff-led?
Yeah.
Okay, and so we would be the anomaly where a volunteer-based organization is manning almost approving body after approving body after approving body?
That's correct.
Okay, so I'm just going to state my concern, and I've come from a jurisdiction as well, so I do understand the conundrum, especially when it comes, yes, you may be able to resolve the scheduling issues, but my bigger concern is it's the same people. It is going to be the same people on this commission who have the ability to perform. It does not allow for a variation from the public perspective. It does not allow for a different, pair of eyes. It does not allow for a more tangible, expected, these are guidelines, this is what the county requires us, the city requires us to do. And so that's my concern. We're removing away a lot of the variation and the ability to allow other individuals, other subject matter experts to opine on it, on the project. It's the same, no matter which year, if I can for the next 4 years, it's going to be the same people. That's my concern.
And tonight, I think emotions with the neighbors are running high. I think staff would be more inclined to follow guidelines that are administered by or set by Planning Commission and Council more evenly. Right. And that was my big objection before by, making it all planning commissioners. And if we add 3, I think it's just going to exacerbate the problem and the fairness to residents when they want to assert their private property rights to improve their property, which when it comes our turn to do it, we want to be able to do it in a fair manner.
So there is, so from benchmarking other jurisdictions where there is administrative reviews or zoning administration reviews, that appeal, though, goes to Planning Commission, correct?
In most, I'd have to go back and look, but I think it splits. There are some that go to Planning Commission and some that go to City Council.
So depending on the
type of application.
application, so major, for instance, subdivisions or major specific plans would go directly to City Council for.
Correct.
Okay, understood. So that's where I'm benchmarking. We would be one of the, I don't know if I've heard of other jurisdictions where the entire architectural or subcommittee, whatever that is called individually, is also just planning commissioners.
So in the case of Morgan Hill, Campbell, Sunnyvale, San Jose, and Palo Alto, the appeal goes to the Planning Commission.
Correct.
In Mountain View, the appeal goes to City Council. But I believe 2 of them have architectural boards, right? Mountain View and Palo Alto have architectural boards. And so Santa Clara is doing it our own way, the Santa Clara way. But what I appreciate is the fact that it does give the public a good opportunity to weigh in on projects in their neighborhoods, which when it goes to staff review, the public is not really part of the process.
I agree. Let's go to Commissioner Salam first.
Okay, so
I just wanted one point of clarification. All those hearings are still public noticed hearings, community still gets noticed in the same way they would. It's just the decision maker is someone at staff level versus, other residents who are residents on a committee. So that's really the distinction, is the makeup of the decision maker, not the level of participation that the community would experience.
Right. And in other jurisdictions.
I just want to clarify.
Okay.
Commissioner Salam.
Okay, now I actually can speak from some experience, having been on the ARC for quite a while now. One of the things I've noticed as being a participant from the Planning Commission is an opportunity to take our enthusiasm for the growth of the community and our ideals for improvements to a process that would not easily, well, let's put it this way. With staff review only, the emphasis is on the rules and not on the aesthetics. I understand that that's a normal part of the process, but we've made a number of recommendations that have improved the artistic, the community integration, a number of things that are just outside of the rules. I really prefer that we have that opportunity as a body to provide influence on the architecture that isn't just the rules. And that's the only main concern I have about having an administrative-only review, is it will create the common denominator gray box approach because they did it in the rules. Okay, they didn't add anything, but they followed the rules, so it's approved. I think that's my real concern. As far as time on the job, it hasn't been egregious. There's been a few examples. Having 3 members of the Planning Commission involved, I wasn't sure that that was really how it was proposed. I think it was supposed to still be 2 with an alternate.
That's what I was
Yeah, I thought
coming
it was
with
supposed
my
to be 2 with an
recommendation.
alternate, not 3
Correct.
with an alternate on that 3. I'm really not opposed to either way, but I think 2 with an alternate may reduce the load. And finally, I don't see how eliminating the AERC, the review committee, having planning commission participation will actually reduce our workload, because if somebody objects to the staff review and the results, they're going to immediately escalate. Now, that'll increase, I guess, city council under the current proposal, but it could have just as easily been escalated to planning commission, in which case we'll still hear a lot of these that are controversial. So did you follow any of that? Hopefully I didn't wander too far, but I think I like the 2 and alternate approach better than 3 mandated.
Okay,
Through the chair.
2,
okay.
2 for quorum and
So
3 as an alternate.
The way it is now.
Yeah, the way it is now.
Okay. So in that, so my only concern in that situation, in the 2, would be, is it would be a tie, then we'd, probably end up going to city council.
May I make a suggestion?
Yeah,
I'm
Commissioner
open to
Strickler.
3. It should be 3, because it is it's Brown Act almost. You can't have 2 playing against each other. But I would suggest that the third person be administrative. So 2 planning commissioners and 1 either as a development review officer or a zoning administrator, whoever.
Legally, is that okay?
I would have to look into it, but I've never seen a board or committee made up of both or appointed officials and staff members. So we'd have to look. Oh, you have? Okay.
So
Well,
I'm
we'll have to
gonna
look into it.
reiterate back to what Rena was saying, is that it's a lot of time commitment, but also what Commissioner Salam said is that it's not as tough as you think it is. I mean, I live a life on the go, and I was at a point where I didn't have a car, and I was getting here every Wednesday I can. And that's mainly because, why? Is I think mainly all of us are here is because we want to make a better community. And I think we will find a third person. If we had to get a third person, we will find a third person to serve. And, if we need an alternate, we put an alternate on there for even on that would be a 4th person, because that person could be called if an emergency, or in situations like for Commissioner Biagini or Commissioner Salam or something like that. But I mean, looking at when Commissioners Jane said about how we're a unique situation, well, I agree. Santa Clara is a very unique city because we elect our city clerk and we elect our police chief, and I think that's something that we shall still continue to do. And I think Santa Clara shouldn't just be like, let's join the rest of the ranks and let's do the same kind of thing every other city's doing. I think we should be a little different and have that kind of thing, but just appealing it to city council as what's in the recommendation right now. But, sorry, that was my opinion, but let's go to
I'm ready to make a
Commissioner
motion.
Biagini.
I had a
I'm not.
second. I understand your concern about having a staff person, and while I like that idea because I think it brings some expertise into it, I'm a little torn because I'm concerned about the time commitment for staff. I mean, I think they're kind of already,
I think that was the original recommendation and still is.
is it?
We still staff the
Yeah.
AC.
Yeah,
I
okay.
as much as I actually appreciate your consideration.
Well, I mean-
we are at the meeting too, so I don't know
Yeah.
if that factors into the decision.
All right, well, I mean, I'm not trying to be overly generous to staff here. I mean, I'm retired. I know I have time unless there's a conflict, but I'm also looking at folks that are doing 40 hours a week, and then I don't want to burn out.
Okay, I'm
All
ready
right,
to make
let's-
a motion.
Hold on.
I am
Let's
not.
go to Commissioner.
Well,
Hold on, everybody.
let's
Hold
make
on.
the motion.
Time out.
Let's
Let's-
make the motion, and then we
Okay.
can continue on our debate.
I make a
No, I have
motion. I make a motion to recommend City Council adopt an ordinance to amend Chapter 18.76 Architectural Review of the City of Santa Clara Zoning Code to amend the existing basically what the staff report says, with the change that item C1A, instead of a two-story structure, blah, 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 change 1A to 5 or more bedrooms, semicolon, or B, 4 more bathrooms, semicolon, or,
No, 5 or more bathrooms.
oh, 5 or more,
right?
excuse me.
5 or more bathrooms.
5 or more bathrooms,
Period.
semicolon, or, and insert C, 2 or more bedrooms with direct access to outside. Period.
Were you inserting that?
C after B. So instead of 1A and B, it will be 1A, B, and C.
Okay, so there's that motion. Let's go to Commissioner Jane.
Okay, in the staff report, there's a section here which is not in the, there's no mention of this in the ordinance that is before us, but I think this is very important. It says, design consultation. Based on City Council's direction on the March 5th, 2019 meeting, staff is proposing that the city modifies its procedures so that the review of all multifamily attached residential projects include input from a practicing architect with similar experience or practice. The architect would be hired by the city with all costs passed on to the project applicants. Multifamily and attached residential projects, e.g. apartment buildings, condominiums, townhouses, are typically the projects with the greatest community interest in design issues and for which it is difficult to rely upon codified design standards or the city's design guidelines. I agree with all of that, but it doesn't cover any commercial buildings. So a commercial building of more than 5,000 square feet triggers an ARC review. That's in the guidelines. But there is this rule here, which is not in the ordinance at all. This is just sort of a recommendation from council. So I would like to codify this
So can
in.
I ask if anyone wants to second my motion and then make a friendly
second it.
amendment to, that incorporates Commissioner Jane's suggestion?
I'll second it.
Can I make a friendly
Okay.
amendment?
Hold on, so what Commissioner Jane was saying is you're going to be friendly to his amendment to that, or, because I'm trying to,
Wait, so I made a motion. It
yeah,
has
so
to
you
be
got a motion.
seconded.
Steve seconded it.
Okay, so if Commissioner Jane wants to make that amendment, I'll be open to it.
Okay, so Commissioner Jane?
So what I am recommending is that all multifamily attached residential projects include input from a practicing architect with similar experience and/or practice. The architect would be hired with all costs passed on to project applicants, and an architect would also be employed for all commercial projects of greater than 5,000 square feet.
Okay. Commissioner Salam? Oh, City Attorney, do you have something?
I'm sorry, can you please repeat that?
Okay. Actually, I can combine them. So the city will modify its procedures so that the review of all multifamily attached residential projects and commercial projects of greater than 5,000 square feet include input from a practicing architect with similar experience and/or practice. The architect would be hired by the city with all costs passed on to project applicants.
Okay. Got that? And let's go to Commissioner Salam while she's typing that.
So where would that be in this ordinance? Where would that be?
I am not sure. I need advice on that.
Can we first listen to what Commissioner Salam has to say?
Okay. It's not going to be much. I think that there's a danger in that amendment because the cost of this has to be defined upfront for the applicants to be able to put it into their cost of development. Also, it can't be a floating number. It can't be something that is determined after they start reviewing. So I'm open to hearing how staff would respond to that kind of a requirement and how we would approve it after the fact.
Before anyone chimes in, I'd like to hear from staff.
I think staff's initial reaction is 5,000 square feet for commercial is quite low. And Gloria, I should say Development Review Officer Chiara just confirmed that projects under 10,000 square feet are exempt under CEQA. So that number seems quite low to ask for an architect. You know, a lot of these could be a grocery store that's adding, you know, storage area to the back of their facility. So really to get the best, I should say, bang for the buck. Plus, every time and obviously the reason why staff prioritized multifamily was we do recognize that this engagement with a consulting architect will add time and will add coordination on the city's end as well as the applicant's end, right? So we just want to make that coordination and that time, like, to get the most from that. And so to the extent, and we completely understand, you know, the importance of commercial buildings, but perhaps the commission would consider a much higher threshold than 5,000 square feet.
So, I can.
Commissioner Jane?
So the reason why I put in the 5,000 is because 5,000 is what triggers an ARC review. So why did we set the ARC review threshold at 5,000? Plus, the other question I had was that the Chick-fil-A, which is where the McDonald's was, is a really boring building. And that got approved, and I couldn't deny it because I didn't have any standing there. And I'm sure that's not 10,000 square feet.
But I think what staff is saying, on a small business, this cost may be a real burden, and it's adding more time where the staff would be better focused on larger projects. And based on what you said, you're thinking something like 50,000? I mean, what are you thinking?
What do you think?
Do you want to get back to us on it?
Well, we would like to give you some direction so we can come back and move this forward.
Yeah, it's just that the guideline under CEQA is that if it's an urbanized area, up to 4 buildings to totaling no more than 10,000 square feet is exempt. So basically, it's not considered a project under CEQA. So but that's just one metric for reviewing it.
I mean, we just had last week in the Mercury, the burden we're putting on developers is reducing the number of projects in housing coming forward. And we don't want to create an unnecessary or time-consuming burden. We want to do it where it makes sense. So at what size level would you say it makes sense?
Could we offer that we already have the guidance for the CEQA limitations? Maybe Commissioner Jane would accept that anything outside of a CEQA automatic approval would be something that triggers it.
Is that something Commissioner Jane would be open to?
Well,
You might want to consider differentiating between freestanding buildings and additions to existing buildings.
That's
because
smart.
a 5,000 square foot pad building, a lot of people like a Chick-fil-A consider important.
I like that.
I agree. I mean, to voice the concern, I think we want to be a city that welcomes development and not burden unduly, especially if I have a boutique, 5,000 square feet. Now I have to hire an architect to make any renovations as opposed to me telling a GC, a general contractor, what work can be done.
So new construction over 10,000 or 10,000 or more?
Let's hear what he had to say again, because I want to write that down myself. What was that again that you said prior to that too?
Keep the same threshold, 5,000 square feet, but make it for freestanding buildings.
Freestanding buildings. but new construction.
Right. And then have a different threshold for additions to existing buildings.
A new
Might be
threshold
10 or 20,000 square feet.
existing.
Well, I guess the reason why I want to tie this into the ARC is because I would expect the architect would come to that ARC meeting. So if this, if a threshold triggers an ARC meeting, then at that ARC meeting, we would expect that a architect would attend that meeting and inform the ARC members who are voting on the project.
But that's my concern. That is my concern, that you're asking an architect to come for.
We have not agreed on that process.
Right.
I mean, because we're supposed to work out those solutions beforehand to formulate a recommendation, so.
Commissioner Biagini?
I'm wondering if we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, and the reason I say that is, it's not that I don't understand the concern about adding in commercial projects, but, I mean, seriously, 5,000 square feet is nothing, okay? And even if it was for a standalone, it's still nothing, and, God, I'm not gonna sound like myself here, but, I don't want to kill, development of a small business because we're expecting a small business to now take on the cost of a practicing architect. Not that I would think that an architect would base his fee on the size of a project to put input in, but I don't know that. I would think it's a standard fee, but it's also a fee getting passed on to a project applicant, and that's going to be a killer for development. I mean, if I wanted to, God knows I never would. But if I did want to and I had to come up with an architect fee for a 5,000 square foot even standalone, that'd probably be the end of my idea of any kind of project. And I don't think we want to do that in Santa Clara. While we do want to keep an eye on ugly architecture, for lack of a better word, even though that's subjective, I think that we might be hurting more than helping with that kind of verbiage right now. I think there's a way of doing it, but this isn't it.
Okay. Commissioner Jane, do you still have?
Yeah, I'm looking back at the notes from the meeting that we had on commercial architecture. And I guess they're saying that Trader Joe's is about 15,000 square feet. A Sprouts is 30,000 square feet. A grocery store is 40,000 square feet. So those are the kind of the size of commercial buildings. But, you know, if you do anything to your house, you pretty much always hire an architect.
Not
If
necessary.
you're gonna add a room,
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
No.
Use
Okay.
a contractor or building
Yes.
designer.
Just to reference, to build an ADU these days, just an ADU of about 800 square feet is costing about $300,000. On top of that, if I have to hire a professional architect versus going directly just to, and believe me, architects do not want to take small projects just for the sake of, they have labor, they want to cover their costs. It is additional burden. So you could do, general contractors just as capable to pull building permits.
No, I understand, but we're looking for aesthetics. I mean, I'm kind of tired of nothing to look at in Santa Clara.
I agree.
Or ugly.
And I agree. I think what we need to be concerned with is larger projects, not the small, independent franchises.
Yeah.
Just another thing to think about, when I think about whatever major process changes we're taking on, is that, you know, to the extent that we try something in a limited sense, I see how that works. If there's an interest by the commission to change things further, there's nothing that's kind of there's an opportunity now for the AC, but it doesn't mean all of our hopes and dreams for the AC have to be implemented today. I'm just saying that because just for food for thought in terms of where people are at, if you want to.
So I guess
all these changes or.
I'm still trying to understand why the 5,000 square foot commercial triggers ARC. Why is that in here?
Yeah, and, there are independent pad buildings that influence how people feel about the street. Chick-fil-A was just referenced here.
How
The
big was
5,000 square
Chick-fil-A?
foot building,
5,000 square feet?
right.
But
This
I-
doesn't, yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying is that then we should change that ordinance that says it should be 5,000 square feet freestanding. That's,
New freestanding.
but that's independent of the architect. That's what triggers an ARC review.
Correct, but the point that to come to ARC, you need to be architect tool is where it's going a little further down.
Well, this is actually not that the applicant has to hire their own architect. This would be an architect contracted by the city.
Still, it's
to
a
weigh
cost to
in
the project.
independent. I understand,
Yeah,
but it's not that they have to go find somebody.
understood.
Okay. I have 3 names on here. Did you guys all have request to speak, or are you wanting to speak? Commissioner Chiricuru, are you requesting to speak?
Yeah, I do
Okay.
have a question unrelated. So there is a motion on the floor. There is a second. There is a potential amendment. Are we still tracking that? Because I did want to ask if there was a friendly amendment to the motion for the 3 planning commissioners to be 2 planning commissioners and an alternate with a staff delegate being the 3rd person.
Yes.
No, that's the friendly amendment to a motion on the floor.
Okay, so, sorry, let me write this in there. So your friendly amendment was?
To have 2 planning commissioners with alternates and the 3rd person being an administrative staff member to staff the ARC.
I don't accept that change.
Okay, Commissioner Kezi does not accept that
Okay.
friendly amendment. And once again, I think the city attorney.
Commissioner Casey, did you accept the friendly amendment by Commissioner Jane?
I don't understand the full, what the,
Okay.
what you want to change. Which clause of the ordinance do you want to change? If I may make a suggestion, maybe it's item C5 and C6, or no, C4 and C5?
Let me pull it up here.
But I'd like to get that clarified.
Would be, yes, C4, which would be new non-residential development, freestanding new non-residential development greater than 5,000 square feet in size is the amendment.
Do you accept that amendment?
So can you phrase that exactly?
It's just adding freestanding before new non-residential
No,
development.
no, the full thing, what you're suggesting.
So, so what is triggering an ARC review are all of these independent things. And C4 is a ARC review would be triggered by any new freestanding non-residential development greater than 5,000 square feet in size.
Yeah, but where does the verbiage about the architect review?
No, that's not, this is independent. This is a separate one.
Different.
And then
Okay, so.
on top of that,
Okay.
so then,
And my question is, does number 5 change modifications or additions to
Yes.
existing non-residential development?
so I would say for existing, I would change that to 10,000 for C5. And then I would add C8, I guess. Or, no, it would be independent. It wouldn't be under that. It would be under D, I guess. And I would say, and we can pick a number, any, okay, so I would add the language of the previous statement, and I would make that for any development. Let me find that again. So this would be, I guess, under D. It would be,
Well, those are the findings.
Yeah.
okay. So it would have to be somewhere else. I'm not sure where it would go.
Can you tell me the language that you're considering, and then we could see whether?
So the wording that I want to put in there somewhere is that the city, so at the ARC meeting, the review of all multifamily attached residential projects and commercial projects larger than 20,000 square feet include input from a practicing architect with similar experience and/or practice. The architect would be hired by the city with all costs passed on to project applicants.
Would you accept that friendly
So
amendment?
where will that go to? It's not going to be part of the ARC process?
Well, it would be at the ARC meeting.
So you're asking that an architect be present at the architectural review meeting?
For projects that are multifamily attached residential projects or commercial projects larger than 20,000 square feet.
Okay, so then maybe we need sub-clause under 3 and 4 and 5?
Commissioner Casey, the city attorney's office will draft the language. So we'll take a look at it and
Okay,
insert
great.
that language.
All right, thank you. Yes, I accept the friendly amendment.
Okay,
Can I,
so
can I make a suggestion then? Since I'm amicable to most but not one, can we separate out the recommendations?
Oh, for the friendly amendment?
I mean, for the, yeah, you know, while I'm agreeable to most of the we've done a few, right?
So first, Commissioner Casey should make her determination as to whether she accepts Commissioner Jane's friendly amendment, and then you may make another friendly amendment to modify that
so
motion.
you accept Commissioner Jane's amendment
I do, but I rejected Commissioner Chair Cruz.
of her prior one, which was the 2 planning commissioners. So
You
is
didn't
that,
take a vote to overcome my rejection, so that's where it stands, right?
No, if you reject it, it's done.
No, if I reject, it's rejecting all of the recommendations versus taking the changes separately.
You rejected the.
Well, it's all part of a motion, so you could either support them or not. You don't have to have consensus on the motion.
yeah,
No,
you-
but I do want to accept some of the recommendations. I don't want mine to be a no vote for all of the suggested changes. It would just reflect that I did not accept any of the changes.
We'd have to have separate motions for each of
Well,
those
then
amendments.
we have to take a vote on the motion, and if passes, it passes. If fails,
Right.
then somebody has to make another motion,
Make
right?
separate motions.
Yeah.
okay. So then what we're gonna do then is we're gonna make a vote on the motion now for 2 or more, for 2 or more entrances is the amendment, for the friendly amendment, 5 bedrooms, 5 bath amendment, and then the other one was, wait, that was the only, oh, and the other amendments was
No, that's not the amendment. That's my original motion.
your original motion. Okay, yeah, so your original motion was those, and then the amendments are Commissioner Jane's amendments, which was the, sorry, let me read it off.
So the freestanding
Freestanding.
5,000, yeah.
5,000, and then the other one was the 5, which was switching 5,000 to 10,000.
Yeah.
And then the other amendment was the review of a multifamily greater than, and commercial greater than 20,000 square feet.
Yeah, of all multifamily attached residentials and commercial developments greater than 20,000 square feet, include the input from a practicing architect with similar experience or practice.
Okay.
And I'd like to ask if Commissioner Kelly also accepts, because he seconded the original motion.
I'll accept it.
Yes.
Okay, so we got a second.
And then I have one question.
Commissioner Virginia?
Somebody give me an example of 20,000 square feet commercial? I think you guys were
Trader
talking
Joe's.
about
I think I
Trader
just
Joe's.
gave
Is
that
that
to you.
20K?
I think Trader Joe's was 15,000
Yeah,
or,
Trader Joe's was 15,000.
and then
Over on Coleman?
Whole Foods was
Whole
A
Foods was
typical,
30.
a typical Trader Joe's is 15,000,
Okay.
and a typical grocery store is 40,000. A
Whole Foods.
Sprouts?
Sprouts, that was the
Sprouts
one.
was 30,000.
Right.
That's within, though, an existing.
And then I think it said that tenant spaces that are typically 20,000 are now going to 10,000 square feet. And a target, they range all the way from 140,000 to 25,000. So,
Keep in mind too, that the aggregate space is what we're talking about. It could be a strip mall of 5,000 square foot units, but in the aggregate sense, they could be over 20,000.
The addition would be 20,000. Okay, not the entire shopping center.
Right, if you
Okay.
built another leg.
So are we going to vote on this?
Did Commissioner
those-
Now I'm
Commissioner
getting
Kelly,
confused
okay.
again.
Okay, Commissioner Biagini has a question.
Now I'm getting confused again. All right, so when we're talking about that last piece, that's, it triggers architectural review for all multifamily attached units, and any commercial greater than 20,000 square foot would then require an architect hired by the city with the cost borne by the applicant?
correct.
Yes.
Just want to make sure I understood it.
Okay, so we had the motion, we had the second. And let's take a vote. That passes 6-1.
No, I was hoping it'll parse out, but it was going to go through anyway.
Okay.
So that motion passes, thank you.
So that motion passes. Okay. No appeal for 7 days or anything on that, so.
No, it's just a recommendation.
We'll be able,
Right.
that's what I
let's-
was also hesitant.
Let's move on to, where'd it go? Sorry. Let's move on to reports of commission, board, and liaison and committee. Number 1, announcements and other items. Any of you? Or?
So, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We were just conferring that, can I confirm with the city attorney that since this is a draft ordinance, it will have to come back to the commission in its final form before it can be forwarded, or can we?
Not necessarily, no, the city attorney's office would draft the ordinance as recommended by planning commission.
Okay.
And that draft would go to the city
That'll
council.
go directly to city
Yes.
council, okay.
Okay. Announcements? Sorry, go ahead.
And the only announcement we have is that we are canceling the September 11th Planning Commission meeting, but we will be holding the one in 2 weeks on August 28th.
28th.
Of September.
Do we have a?
28th of August,
Sorry, August.
yes.
Do we have a second one in
Canceling September
September?
11th.
Yes, there is, on the, I think the
Because I'm going to
24th?
be gone from the 19th to the 29th.
Okay.
Is there another planning commission meeting in September? At the
Yeah,
end of the
so
month?
there are also some study sessions that
The
are upcoming.
27th?
So August 20th, September 3rd, and October 8th are dates we asked for you to put on your calendar. August 20th is certainly happening.
Okay.
And
20th or 28th?
20th, 20. And the other dates we also believe are happening, but we'll confirm time when we get closer.
So
On
next week.
this Friday, we'll be able to know the time certain for when the study session begins with the Planning Commission and City Council on August 20th.
So
The next Tuesday.
Study sessions are open to the public, I assume?
Yes.
Okay.
You won't?
There's only one.
So make sure we're all here next Tuesday.
And you said there was a planning commission study session on short-term rentals from 4 to 6 on September 3rd?
No, the topics on August 20th will be a general overview of the comprehensive update, as well as changes to align with our general plan, changes to the single-family district, and then changes to support placemaking. On September 3rd, we're bringing information forward on the concept of safe parking, which allows for overnight parking on private property, and assisted living, because that's been something staff's been tackling with. And then on October 8th is short-term rental and long-term rental. regulations.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the other announcement was the email exchange that Commissioner Jane and Ms. Brio and I had regarding the conditions of approval and how those are reflected both in the minutes and the follow-up for the Planning Commission action. So if you want to have that agendized, we can place that on a different meeting agenda, but it probably is going to have to be at that September meeting since I'll be out and we'll have to come back with some information for you.
Commissioner Jane, would you like to have that agenda?
I would like to see that agendized to discuss how, because there have been times when the minutes didn't fully represent. That's why we review the minutes, what we had intended. And so to review those conditions, to have them written out is useful to me.
I do want to mention one thing, though, that we did confirm with the city clerk's office and the city attorney, and those conditions cannot be included in action minutes. So there would have to be some other type of follow-up. It's not protocol for the action minutes.
So they could be just an attachment to
We
the.
cannot attach them to action minutes
No,
either.
it's not to the minutes. It would just be an attachment that went out to council when the agenda went out. Well, I guess we could just get them emailed to us before the meeting.
Because they do get the revised minutes in whatever we forward to them. If it's a final action by the Planning Commission, then those final revised conditions are sent to the applicant. But we can put that on your agenda to show you what we do and explain that process.
Okay.
Okay. Let's move on to item 2, which is board or committee assignments.
I think that's been discussed tonight.
Okay. Let's move on to our favorite topic of the night, architectural committee. How's it going over there? How was it? You guys already, you did it? Good. How'd you like it?
It was fine.
Awesome. Any other reports over there, Vice Chair?
It's very odd to be the one doing most of the talking.
Welcome to my
But
world.
one of the things that did come up is something we were talking about before this meeting, is that it would be very helpful to have a laminated sheet of standard rhetoric that we are able to refer to.
We will include that for the
Yeah.
next meeting.
Awesome. Thank
Excellent.
you.
Chair Salim.
Any more comments? Architectural committee? Okay, let's move on to commissioner travel and training reports and requests to attend trainings. Any? None?
And I can just jump back for a second.
Yeah.
We had an experience during the review committee meeting. We had a visitor who didn't seem to be quite in full possession of his faculties. I don't know if we have any idea of a sergeant of arms or someone who could help us.
Was
He was very.
Do you have a tattoo on his face?
I don't remember specifically, but it was very disjointed comments and conversation, and it was very unusual.
We do have, I did mention that before the speaker, did present information he doesn't typically do, but we have, there is contact with the police department if something ever arises to that occasion, but it isn't a frequent occurrence.
Yeah, well, I wasn't assuming so, and it wasn't certainly nonviolent or non-confrontational. It was just extremely unusual and didn't seem to fit the venue for what we were trying to do.
There's not a good explanation for, his speaking, so just leave it at that.
I think we dealt with it okay, so, yeah, it was interesting.
I had a request. On September 9th, there's a digital government summit in Sacramento, and it's free to attend, but I would be taking Amtrak there and coming back. That's like $100. So I'm requesting $100 to pay for travel.
We need a motion to approve that authorization.
Would we
for
have a
this
motion to
expenditure.
approve that?
Motion approved.
I think
I'm
Commissioner
gonna
Kelly
go
made that
with
motion.
Different Commissioner Keller,
Can I
seconded by
amend that
Commissioner
motion?
Akezzi.
Can I amend the motion, though, to be cover the expense of the trip rather than a pre-allocated amount? Because you may find you need to spend some money on lunch or something, you know. It should be a reasonable amount, but
Right.
the cost of the trip.
So there is a daily per diem, so we will include that and any other incidental expenses.
Would you be for that amendment? Or Mr. Steve Kelly? Yes, okay. All right, let's take a vote.
September 9th, yeah. The Digital Government Summit in Sacramento.
Motion failed. Oh, well. You aren't going, Seds.
The cyber gods
Can we
are
just
not
do
with
a
us.
hand vote? It's not-
All in
okay,
favor?
there we go.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Passes unanimously.
The other thing was that we now have this expanded training budget. Is there any opportunity to invite speakers to come speak when we have light agendas?
Well, yes, you do. It's just that it's difficult that we don't know that far in advance sometimes how many items we have, and we normally need to book the speakers at least, say, 6, usually a couple months in advance. So we could try to coordinate some of those, if you give us some areas of topics that you're interested in, and then we could look into those and trying to coordinate those with your agendas.
Okay.
Are there limits to who we might approach for coming and speaking? Because I actually have a contact with Elon Musk that he could come and speak to us about autonomous cars and stuff, but I don't know what budgets and time there are for stuff like that.
Well, your budget is very prescribed. So there are
Right.
limitations on that. And I think we would have to find the connection between your decision-making, you know, edifying your decision-making abilities around land use. And, you know, the justification really for the added training budget was really mostly justified around trainings that are local and incredibly relevant. Of course, there's opportunity to kind of modify that, especially if you're making the case for a training that could benefit the majority view in a more efficient way. But I think what's important is when we find a speaker, that we bring a speaker who isn't an advocate necessarily for a position, but maybe is an authority, is credentialed, just to provide a fair, balanced perspective.
I was thinking in particular, I was at the Prospect Silicon Valley conference, and there was a person there that I know that handles the TMA for Palo Alto, so Transit Management Agency, so, you know, contracting for shuttle buses and things, so I could potentially get her.
Okay. Now we're going to move on to Director of Community Development reports. The first one off is Planning Commission budget updates.
Okay, so your current budget is $27,561 minus the expenses allocated for Commissioner Jane. Still within the 27,000 range.
Okay. Let's move on to upcoming agenda items.
You want to talk about that?
Well, there's not actually a clean spot in the agenda to bring this up, but I wanted to provide an update for the commission because we have some specific plans that are underway. One specific plan is the Freedom Circle specific plan. Commissioner Jane had asked me to provide an update on sort of the status of that specific plan. Staff will be bringing an update on that specific plan to council on August 27th. We had 3 major property owners contribute to fund that specific plan, and 2 of those property owners have have terminated that arrangement, so they're not interested in participating in the specific plan anymore. So what staff is bringing forward. And one of the participants, one of the property owners, is still interested in participating. So staff is bringing forward on August 27th a request from direction from City Council on how to proceed. Is it continue with the specific plan, changing the boundaries to reflect the current property ownership interest? Is it moving forward with what we call a future focus area, where there isn't a specific plan in place, but it's an area in the general plan that would allow and anticipate additional development in the future, but not necessarily require a specific plan today. But it would still allow the particular applicant to move forward with their request today, which is a general plan amendment, sorry. So that's a focus area option. And then third, to discontinue any sort of long-range planning for that area, no focus area, no specific plan, but to take the, and this is Greystar, is the property owner that's still interested in participating. Their application for it is a separate general plan amendment. So those three options are being presented to the City Council, and, you know, we'll get feedback from the council on that direction.
So could we get residential development there, or that's out of the?
So I think what a focus area would do would determine roughly the amount of development capacity in the future and the type of development that could occur. Right now, that's an area that's predominantly industrial, so the request from Greystar is for residential development, higher density residential development.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, city council actions.
Council has been on recess, so there are no new items.
Okay, and before we adjourn our meeting tonight, I'd like to end this meeting in memory of my friend Chad Neal, who was a Santa Clara resident and also worked at Santa Clara Businesses. He had a heart attack this last week and we lost him, and I ask all of my commissioners and the public to get in contact with your friends, your family, and tell them you love them, because you don't know how much time you have left. With that, I ask if there's a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimous.